Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the hope of the Senju clan. What if instead of Kushina being Naruto's mother, and through a trick of fate Naruto's mother was Tsunade after a drunken night with Minato in which Naruto becomes both the heir and hope of the Senju clan. Find out what life would be like now for Naruto. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 13 Apprentice. Konoha. The sun rose as usual into clear skies over Konoha and the Yamanaka flower shop in the early morning. Yamanaka Ino had been given the early shift by her mother. What a way to start my last free day before I begin my team training, she grumbled aloud. And after tomorrow, I have to spend most of my time with lazy as Shikamaru and Choji the gluten. I can't even go track down Forehead Girl and get her to tell what happened in her team exam, although I know they passed, as she with Sasuke and Naruto-kun, the two best ninjas from our class. Ever since her little stumble with Naruto, Ino could not help but think about Naruto, and his dreamy clear blue sapphire eyes, when she stared into them when she had landed on top of him in class. At first Ino tried to brush the images off, but every time she did, she would subconsciously think about them and Naruto's face, and the feeling of being on top of him, which made her blush each time. What more, when she went to bed she had several dreams of her and Naruto being together, one where Naruto was her Prince Charming and swept her off her feet, another was her and walking down the wedding aisle with Naruto waiting for her at that end. The third was her Naruto together with three blonde little children, two girls and one boy, standing in front of them, while she held a blonde baby girl in her hands. After the dream, Ino had brushed it off again, thinking her mind was playing tricks on her, as she loved Sasuke-kun. But the next day after Shikamaru, Choji, and she had passed their team test, and had finished celebrating at the barbecue restaurant, where Choji gorged himself on the pork, Ino decided to see how Sasuke was doing, and if he wanted to celebrate with her on passing their team exams by going out on a date. But as she headed toward the Uchiha compound, she noticed several kids soaked to the skin from top to bottom, running as fast as they could out of an alley. Along with hearing Naruto's voice shouting, "And if I ever see you picking this pup or any other animal again, I do more than wet you." When she looked in, she saw Naruto helping a scared herd pup, where he then healed it and fed it. Upon healing the herd pup, he came out of the alley saying something about bringing the pup home, after hiding, and then following Naruto. While staying hidden, she saw him bring the pup to the Inuzuka kennels, which Ino guessed was where he came from. After talking to Kiba, more like argue, along with an older girl and women, who Ino had guessed were Kiba's mother and sister, for a few minutes Naruto left. But not before the pup started biting onto his shinobi pants to get him to stay, where Naruto promised to come back and visit. After that Ino continued to follow Naruto, while staying hidden, where she then saw him make solid clones of himself, much to her surprise, and the trained with himself by either taijutsu, or using his sword or practicing his throwing and aiming with his kunai, shurikens and senbon needles. She also watched him eat some sandwiches and giving his leftovers to some hungry birds and animals that were staring at him nearby. After which he went back to training. As Ino watched him, she could not help but see that Naruto was a very kind person. She of course quickly tried to tell herself that Sasuke was just as nice. But of course she couldn't lie to herself, as in all the different times she had followed and watched Sasuke, she had never seen him once do anything remotely nice to anyone or anything like Naruto had done. Later on, when she got hungry and her stomach started to growl, as she eaten anything at the barbecue, as she was dieting. But when she had tired to hush her stomach's growls, she had noticed two ham sandwiches on a small red cloth on the ground next to her. Naturally she had been surprised and wondered where they had come from, but she quickly figured out that somehow Naruto knew she was watching him, and had sent a clone to sneak up to her and lay the sandwiches next to her. At first Ino tried to ignore her hunger as she was dieting, but her resolve had ended soon and she ate the sandwiches, upon which she decided to go home, knowing she had been caught. When she went home she met her father, who had just arrived home from a special council meeting. When she asked what it was about, he told her it was about Naruto, but other than that he refused to say, which Ino hated, as being the daughter of a shinobi interrogator made her natural curious. When she had went to bed she had several more dreams about her and Naruto, after which she decided to follow Naruto the next day and find out why her subconscious found him so appealing. For most of the second day she followed Naruto around, where he went to do some shopping. Naruto greeted respectfully to anyone who greeted him first, unlike Sasuke who would normally ignore people's greetings. Later on she also watched Naruto being chatted up by several girls from her class, whereupon seeing this Ino actually became jealous, and was actually tempted to go over and beat the crap out of the girls. She also noticed that unlike Sasuke, Naruto did not simply ignore the girls and walk past them, instead he spoke to them kindly and respectfully, where when each of the girls tired to ask him out on a date, he politely refused, saying that he was busy training or doing something at the time and saying things like perhaps another time, but thank you and I'm very sorry but I can't. The more Ino watched Naruto the more she saw how better he seemed to be that Uchiha survivor, though she had been less than pleased at those thoughts. As despite common belief she is by no means a shallow, frivolous girl. Yet no matter what she used to try and convince herself of Uchiha Sasuke's superiority, it failed time and again whenever she tried to compare the Uchiha pretty boy to Senju. Naruto carried himself in a nobler, regal manner, yet with none of the overlaying dark shadow that seemed to be cast over the Uchiha survivor, and the fact that he acutely smiled and spoke more and was more polite than the young Uchiha. As she had thought these things, she couldn't understand at first why she was letting Naruto get to her like this. As she knew the boy for barely a few days and he had already invaded her every thought. Each time she tried to remember the face of her beloved Uchiha, somehow, inexplicably, the sun-kissed blonde's kind, gentle and happy visage would surface eventually, replacing the scowling image of the raven-haired prodigy. But the worst thing about this whole ordeal was that Naruto did absolutely nothing to her to cause this, at all. It wasn't until much later on in the day that Ino finally realized she was somehow falling for the young Senju heir, after which she decided to find out more about Naruto, before she would make her move on him. Hence why she was itching to find Sakura and hopefully find out as much as she could from her. As luck would have it, the fates weren't completely against her that morning. No sooner than she'd wished she could go find Sakura, than the girl walked into the shop causing the little bell over the doorway to jingle merrily in greeting. "Good morning, Ino Pig. Mom sent me to get her weekly flour order." "Your mom's got a weekly order now, forehead girl?" Ino opened up the box containing little cards with the shop's orders written on them, and flipped through to the H section for Hirono. Yeah, she's into this feng shui thing now, and convinced that fresh flowers improve the energy of the house. Cool. I'll go get them. Dad did the order this morning before he left to go training. Her dad was one of those weird morning people freaks. I'd better come and help, there'll be a lot of them. The two girls headed into the back room. Ino flipped her long blonde hair over her shoulder, and then started gathering the things listed on the card. "I'm actually pretty glad you came in here this morning, billboard. I wanted to officially let you know that I'm withdrawing from the Uchiha Sasuke fan club." Sakura was so shocked that she dropped the lilies she was holding. "What?" "Well, he's so yesterday, you know. Now that Naruto-kun is around there's no reason to drool over such a boring and cold boy like Sasuke." "Blasphemy!" cried the pink-haired girl. "Come on Sakura, you saw how well he did at the academy exam, as he passed the tests without even attending a class even once. On top of that, he's Tsunade-sama's son and the last descendant from Senju clan, the founding clan of the village, and both the Shodame and Nidame Hokage. Sasuke-kun is also the last descendant of the Uchiha clan, and they helped found the village, and Sasuke was named the Rookie of the Year, while Senju was made dead last. Not to mention Sasuke-kun is dark, handsome, and mysterious. You know as well as I do, that was because Naruto only did the test and didn't do the 4-year class terms. Besides, the tall, dark, handsome thing is way out of style now. You're always so behind the times, Sakura. Also, everyone knows that it was the Senju clan's idea to found the village first, and it was the Shodame who built most of the village with his Mokutan powers along with the forest. As for mysterious, this Naruto-kun's got it in spades. His moms raised him outside of Konoha for his own protection, and they say his father was such an awesomely powerful ninja with so many enemies that there's a law or something about saying his name. That's stupid. Sakura planted her hands on her hips and glared at her rival. Hey, I'm just telling you what I heard. The Senju founded this village, you know, that makes him as close to a prince as we're ever going to get here. Besides, he's definitely handsome looking as well as cool looking, as he wears a chain earring on his ear, meaning he a rebel as well. Also he has bright blonde hair and impossibly blue eyes. She sighed dreamily. Well, okay, you can join his fan club if you want to, said Sakura, as he had heard of a fan club for Naruto was being formed. But we're definitely not letting you back into Sasuke-kun's if you change your mind. There's no room for the fickle-minded in the race for Sasuke-kun's heart. Sakura tossed her hair and nodded decisively. That's fine with me, as long as you promise not to change your mind and go after Naruto-kun later, replied Ino. Deal, replied Sakura while thinking, cha, I've won, and I've bet Ino pig. Inner Sakura response of this was of course cha, now with Ino pig out of the way Sasuke-kun is all ours. Cha. Okay, now I want you to tell me what happened in your exam, as I want to know everything that happened in it. Don't spare any of the details, as my dad told me there was a council meeting about it, said Ino as she wanted out how well her Naruto-kun did. I can't, said Sakura. Why not? Said an annoyed Ino, as she placed her hand on her hips. Kakashi-sensei came to my house later on after the exam and told me I was forbidden to tell anyone what Senju could do until it official declared. If I or Sasuke-kun tells anyone, we'll have our ninja licenses revoked, our chakra sealed and charged with endangering village security and spend 20 years in a maximum security cell, said Sakura, as it kind of scared her at how serious Kakashi was when he said this. You're kidding? Asked Ino in shock, where Sakura on response was shaking her head indicating she wasn't. At this Ino knew that Naruto was even more mysterious and special than she thought. If the Hokage would go to all this trouble to keep his abilities hidden from everyone, making him all the more desirable to her. Can you at least tell me how strong he is? Asked the blonde-haired girl. Not exactly, other than he is amazingly strong, stronger than Sasuke-kun, said Sakura grudgingly, as there was no point in denying it. At this a triumphant smirk appeared on the young Yamanaka heiress face. Ha! In your face, forehead, that proves that my Naruto-kun is better than the broody Uchiha. In your dreams, Ino pig, Senju may be strong now, but Sasuke-kun will surpass him in no time flat, countered Sakura. Oh yeah, replied Ino. Yeah, said Sakura. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. This of course continued for several minutes, until eventually the two girls stopped and smiled at one another, where Sakura then asked a question. So does this mean we can be friends again? Sure, why not? Oh. You should come over to my house tonight. We can do each other's hair and discuss the relative merits of broody dark ninja boys and kind, mysterious blonde ones. Awesome. I'll bring low-fat ice cream. The next day with Naruto. Currently running through the streets for his life was everyone's favorite blonde-haired Senju. The reason as to why he was running was rather simple, for not far behind him was up to 50 girls from the newly formed Naruto fan club, who were shouting things like, "Marry me, Naruto-kun. I want to be yours, Naruto-kun. I want to have your babies." Originally Naruto was on his way to meet up with his team at their training ground, but as he was heading there he was confronted by a large group of girls from his fan club who then started to chase after him. Upon hearing the things that the girls were shouting, Naruto became further freaked out. Kaachan was right. Fangirls are crazy as hell. As he didn't even know half of these girls, as many weren't even from his class or from the academy. Damn it, this is all Kaachan's fault. She had to drill things like being polite to people and not to be rude. Why the hell do I have to be a nice guy? Why couldn't I be a jerk like the Uchiha team? All he has to do is look the other way, and they faint, thought Naruto, as he slightly blamed his mother for his good nature. Ever since going to the daimyo country estate, his mother had pounded proper manners into him, and to be polite as possible to people. Hence when his fangirls came up to him he politely spoke to them, and denied their request for a date politely so not to hurt their feelings. Unfortunately this made Naruto even more desirable to the girls, as they saw Naruto as a perfect gentleman, hence why they were going berserk over him. As Naruto turned into an alley he found himself in a dead end, and before he could turn around the entranceway was blocked his fan club, and he knew he was trapped. Fortunately though before they could pounce on the helpless Senju heir, a red blur suddenly appeared, upon which Naruto disappeared, right before the girl's eyes. "Where did he go?" asked one girl. "I don't know," said another girl. "Did he shun away?" "I don't think so." "Come on, he can't have gone far." After which the Naruto fan club proceeded to search for their missing love. But unknown to the group of girls on the rooftop of a building not far from them, Naruto stood watching them, and sighed with relief before he turned to his rescuer. "Thanks, I own you one." The person in question was none other than Uzumaki Kushina, who was on her way to meet with Team 7 when she saw Naruto being chased by his fan club, and then being cornered by them. Seeing this, Kushina decided to help Naruto out a bit and save him before the girls ripping him to shreds, as it was her job to protect him and keep an eye on him. "Sure kid, no problem," replied Kushina as she got a better look at Naruto from the last time she saw him, and could not help but be amazed at how much he looked like Minato. Seeing Kushina looking at him with a strange look, Naruto decided to speak. "Is there something wrong, miss?" Realizing what she was doing, Kushina quickly regained herself. No sorry. I was just thinking of something, that's all, and call me Kushina." At this Naruto nodded and held out his hand, which Kushina took. "Nice to meet you, Kushina-san." When Kushina shook his hand, Naruto could not help but have a strange feeling that he had met Kushina before. "Excuse me, I hope you don't mind me asking this, but have we met before?" As I have a strange feeling that we have, asked Naruto, which caused Kushina to smile. "Actually we have, we met when you took care of that snake Mizuki," replied Kushina. As Naruto thought back to that night, it suddenly hit him, "You were that ANBU woman wearing the fox mask," as he remembered that the woman had long red hair like Kushina, and he recognized the sound of her voice. Kushina just nodded her head in affirmation, telling Naruto that he was correct. "Although I'm no longer a ANBU as I'm a Jonin now," she replied. "Oh. Then I guess congratulations." "Thanks, so are you heading to meet with the rest of your team?" "Yes I am, but how did you know?" asked a curious Naruto at how she knew that. At this Kushina smiled and said, "Well, if you follow me there you find out," before she then jumped over to the next building, and started to head towards the third training ground. Not wanting to be left behind, Naruto quickly followed after her. At the third training ground, Sakura and Sasuke waited for their other teammates, although Sasuke had only arrived a few minutes ago, while Sakura had been there since 9 and waited for the rest of her team for the past 2 hours. It was only upon arriving that she remembered about Kakashi's habit of being tardy, where she decided just to wait. When Sasuke arrived she had tried talking to him, hoping to win Sasuke over, now that her biggest rival Ino had finally realized that Sasuke was hers, and was now after Senju. But when she tried to talk to Sasuke he just ignored her attempts, where he just closed his eyes and waited for Naruto and Kakashi to show up so that they could start training and doing missions, where he can finally start getting stronger. Upon Sakura's 5th attempt at trying to talk to Sasuke, Naruto and Kushina appeared together. "Senju, you're late!" cried an angry Sakura at Naruto for arriving right when she was about to make her move on Sasuke again. But upon shouting this she quickly noticed Kushina. Sorry, but who are you?" Before Kushina could answer, Sakura, Kakashi, Yamato, and another young boy appeared. Good, everyone is here so we see — spoke Kakashi, but was interrupted by Sakura shouting, "Sensei, you're late." Sorry about that, I got lost on the road of life," replied Kakashi, with one of his lousy excuses, which made Kushina and Naruto smirk, Yamato to roll his eyes, Sasuke to scoff, Sakura to fume, and the boy with Kakashi to simply look at him curiously. Now then, as I was about to say, now that everyone is here I can tell you that there are going to be some changes in our team. Changes? What changes, Kakashi-sensei? Asked Sakura, while Sasuke raised an eyebrow in curiosity as well. Well, to put it simply, Naruto will no longer be on our team, although he will work with us from time to time in joint assignments and missions, spoke Kakashi. At hear this, Sakura was cheering inside her head along with her inner self at finally having Sasuke all to themselves and being rid of Naruto. But then Sakura decided to ask something. Sensei, why exactly is Naruto leaving our team, and who are these people? Well, you see, these people here are Yamato and Kushina. They used to work with me when I was in ANBU, replied Kakashi, which surprised Sasuke and Sakura at hearing that their sensei used to be part Konoha's elite shinobi division. Naruto will become Yamato's apprentice, while Kushina will be assisting him in Naruto's training. Upon hearing this, Sasuke stood up angrily. Why is Senju getting an apprenticeship with two senseis, who are both former ANBU ninjas, while I'm stuck on a team? I just as special as him, and my clan is just as noble as his. Sakura, who would normally have backed up Sasuke on such matters, but had remained silent as she could not help but be hurt at the fact that Sasuke didn't like the fact that he was on a team with her. Naruto also remained silent as he knew it was best that he say nothing as it would only make things worse, not to mention he was still a bit surprised at hearing this. The reason being, Sasuke, is because Naruto is a special case and there are certain things I cannot teach him, such as his Mokotan, which I cannot help him with, although Yamato and Kushina can, replied Kakashi. Not to mention the fact that the kid kicked your sorry ass in your bell test, spoke Kushina with a smirk, where Kakashi groaned and slapped his head to his forehead in shame and embarrassment, while Naruto just smirked. As upon hearing of his defeat, none of Kakashi's former ANBU colleagues or his fellow Jonin senseis had let him forget about it, where they teased him relentlessly. It only got worse as when they asked how Naruto beat him, where Kakashi couldn't answer, due to the Hokage forbidden in mentioning Naruto's abilities to anyone, until they were officially revealed. Natural, when he refused to answer, the other believed it was because he was too ashamed and embarrassed by how Naruto defeated him to mention it to anyone, hence they just teased him more. It got even worse for Kakashi when Guy heard of his defeat to Naruto, where the eccentric shinobi started to shout out about how the flames of youth burned brightly in Naruto for defeating his eternal rival. After which Guy took it upon himself to help Kakashi regain his lost flames of youth from his defeat to the youthful Naruto, where Guy then dragged Kakashi on several of his exercise regimes and doubled his challenges to Kakashi. The last 3 days had been utter hell for the one-eyed ninja, whether it was from endless amount of teasing from Kushina and his other fellow shinobis or Guy's relentless attempts to help him. Upon hearing Kakashi's answer, Sasuke just glared angrily at Kakashi, as he was not happy to hear this and saw this as just an excuse to give Naruto special treatment and allow him to gain even more power, while leaving him, Sasuke, behind. Not to mention he didn't like being reminded of how powerful Naruto was and how weak he was in comprehension to Naruto. Then who is he? Asked Sakura, as she pointed to the boy next to Kakashi. The boy in question had short ink-black hair, ink-black eyes, and extremely pale skin. He carried a small backpack and wore a short black jacket. He also carried a tipless tanto on his back, while his outfit consisted of a high-collared midriff shirt, black pants, shinobi sandals and gloves with his index and thumb fingers exposed. Sakura also noticed there was a slight physically resemblance between him and Sasuke despite the boy's short hair and pale skin. Allow me to introduce you to your new teammate Sai, spoke Kakashi, introducing his students to Sai, who stepped forward. Humph. Looks like another loser to me, muttered Sasuke, as he looked away from Sai. Oh. That's funny coming from a useless, dickless pantywaist, said Sai, while having a smile on his. What was that? Spoke Sasuke as he glared at Sai angrily, who just had his smile on his face. Hey, don't call Sasuke-kun that! Cried Sakura angrily, as she was angry at the Sai had called her Sasuke-kun useless and dickless. That's no way to talk to someone. We're on the same team now, and if you call everyone that, everyone will hate you. Oh really? Said Sai with the same smile on his face, and I really like ugly bitches like you. Wah hat hat? cried Sakura angrily, where she was about to attack Sai and beat him to a pulp, only to be held back from behind by Kakashi. Who could only wonder if this was the correct decision after all, at seeing how Sai got on even worse with Sasuke and Sakura than Naruto did with them. As this was happening, Naruto was laughing his head off at what Sai had said. Ha 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 ha, brilliant, said Naruto. I think I might actually like this guy, he thought. Good one, man. Name's Naruto. Nice to you, said Naruto as he held out his hand and offered to shake Sai's hand, which he took. Nice to meet you too, dickless, replied Sai, where as soon as he said this, Naruto's grip on his hand suddenly tightened, but still had a friendly smile on his face, where he then asked, what did you just say? I said you're dickless. Are you deaf as well, answered Sai, still smiling, where as soon as he did, an evil smirk suddenly appeared on Naruto's face along with a dangerous look in his eyes that Kakashi, seen only a few days ago, knew well. Before anyone could react, Naruto sent Sai flying away, through 3 nearby trees with a punch to the face, after which he started to crack his knuckles in an all too familiar way to what his mother would do. Both Sakura and Sasuke, as they were both surprised by Naruto's sudden punch, but quickly regained himself, where Sasuke smirked and gave a nod of approval to Naruto at what he had done. Sakura also smirked as well, pleased at what Naruto did to Sai, only wishing she had done it herself. Cha! Serves the bastard right, how dare he call our Sasuke-kun dickless and useless, cha! Thought inner Sakura. Naruto would of course gone after Sai to beat him up some more, had Kushina not appeared next to him and said, easy there, kid, I think he's got the message. No need to go overboard, said Kushina, calming Naruto down. While thinking, the kid may look like Minato-kun, but he acts more like his mother. While at the same time Yamato was beginning to wonder what he had gotten himself into. Once Naruto had calmed down, Kushina turned to Kakashi, suggesting that they take off now with Naruto, and leave him with his team. Kakashi nodded in agreement, believing it might be best, where he could then see if Sai was alright, and then try and get his reformed team to work together. As this was happening, Sai was currently slumped against a tree, with a broken bleeding nose and a slight concussion. Perhaps pissing him off was not the wisest course of action, especially with him having monstrous strength like that. I'm beginning to see why Danzo-sama is so interested in him, he thought. Originally Sai was to be the third person on Team 7, as his orders were to monitor Sasuke, and see if at any point he would wish the village harm or turn traitor. While at the same time watch his progress as see if he might be a worthy candidate for root at some point in the near further. Where if he was, Danzo would then use Sasuke's drive for revenge against his brother and offer him training to become stronger. Thereby mold Sasuke into a perfect loyal shinobi for Konoha and him, where he then would use Sasuke to rebuild the Uchiha clan into a perfect loyal clan to Konoha and him, Danzo. As well as perhaps use Sasuke to kill Itachi, thereby eliminating the threat that Itachi posed to him as well, to help him further his goal to become Hokage and reform Konoha into his image. But if Sasuke showed the chance that he would betray the village and join an enemy of Konoha, or simply go rogue, then Sai was to kill Sasuke on the spot. But upon Naruto arriving in the village, Sai orders had changed, where Danzo had ordered Sai to monitor not only Sasuke, but to monitor Naruto as well, and to study him carefully and report anything of interest or noteworthy to Danzo. As Danzo knew that although Naruto would an apprentice to Yamato, he would still work with Team 7 on joint missions and training along with other teams. Thereby allowing Sai the chance to watch Naruto, so that he could learn as much about Naruto as possible, as well as monitor his growing skill level, so that at some point Danzo could use what he learned to get close to Naruto and manipulate him, or better yet have him join him. With Naruto, Yamato and Kushina. After the little event at the third training ground, Naruto, Yamato and Kushina shunshined into an isolated clearing in the forest, so that they could have a little privacy. Kushina made double sure of it by placing several seals on some of the trees around the clearing, and created a four-corner privacy zone, where no one would be able to enter it, nor would they be able to hear what they were saying. Now with that little episode is behind us, perhaps we should try and get to know one another better, spoke Yamato, taking a page from Kakashi's book, hoping to forget what had happened. Fine then, how would you like to start it then, Yamato? Asked Kushina. Perhaps by telling each other our likes, our dislikes, hobbies and dreams, said Yamato, taking another page from Kakashi's book. How both you guys go first, as I know nothing about either of you other than your names, and that you be my new senseis, while your guys probably know a lot about me from the Gigi, spoke Naruto. At hearing Naruto calling the Hokage Gramps, Kushina smiled, as when off duty she just called the Hokage old man, which eared many frowns from people. Yamato on the other hand raised one of his eyebrows, but decided to let it go, as it was common knowledge how close the Sandaime had been with his students. Hence it would be only natural that Tsunade's son would see the Sandaime as a grandfather. Many of the children in the village today looked to the Sandaime as a grandfatherly-like figure as well. Soon though, both Kushina and Yamato nodded their heads in agreement in talking about themselves first, as it was only fair, as they did know a good bit about Naruto already. Very well then, my name is Yamato, my likes are walnuts and growing things, my dislikes are any food that is oily, and those who put their comrades in danger because of their reckless behavior. My hobbies are reading books about architecture, and as for dreams, I don't particularly have any dreams, to be honest, said Yamato. After Yamato finished, Kushina then spoke. My name is Uzumaki Kushina. My likes are ramen, particularly salt ramen, and playing pranks on people. My dislikes are perverts, people who make fun of my hair, coffee and anything bitter. My hobbies are pulling pranks and chatting to my friends. As for my dreams are to have my own family, and to be the first female Hokage, said Kushina as she cried out the last part and punched her fist into the air. At this, Yamato had a large sweat drop on the back on his head and shook his head in embarrassment at Kushina's antics, while Naruto just grinned, as he was already starting to like Kushina. As she liked ramen, pulling pranks, hated perverts and wanted to be Hokage just like him. Ha! Well, you better get line, lady, because I telling you I going to be the next Hokage, and that's a fact, stated Naruto as he stood up to Kushina. Ha! Like a brat like you will become Hokage. You may think you're hot stuff, because of your mom, dad, and the rest of your family, but it takes a lot more to be Hokage than just being born from a family of Hokages. So don't think for 1 minute that you be handed the title, because you're the descendant of the Shodaime and the Nidaime, stated Kushina. If they did, then I would refuse it, as being Hokage is meaningless to me if I haven't earned it, and if it's given to me because of my ancestors, retorted Naruto. At hearing this, Kushina smirked, as she was starting to like Naruto, as he definitely got the drive and the determination to being Hokage. It was at this point then that Naruto remembered what Kushina said a minute ago. Wait, you said not to think I'm hot stuff, because of my mom and my dad. Do you guys know about my dad? Asked Naruto. This of course caused Yamato to smack his forehead and cover his eyes and shake his head. As Kushina the blabbermouth had done it again, as they were told not to tell Naruto that they knew his full heritage unless it necessary. Kushina of course could only scratch the back of her head in embarrassment and blushed slightly, and have a cheesy grin on her countenance. Deciding to answer Naruto's question, Yamato spoke up. Yes, we are aware of your full heritage, Naruto-san. Did Gigi tell you? Asked Naruto, thinking that old Hokage told them, since they were going to be his senseis. No, Jiraiya-sama informed us, replied Yamato. Ero-sennin told you? Stated Naruto in slight surprise. Ero-sennin? Asked Kushina with slight confusion. That what I call Jiraiya, as he the biggest pervert you can find around, and he is a sage after all, answered Naruto. Upon hearing this, Kushina burst out laughing, saying that was a perfect nickname for Jiraiya, as it suited his perfectly, and wondering why she never thought of that herself. After a few minutes, Kushina calmed herself down, where Naruto then asked why they were told. As his mother and Jiraiya made it perfectly clear that the fewer people knew about his dad the better. Kushina then went on to explain how they found, after which Naruto then smacked his palm to his face, and shook his head. Damn Ero-sennin, trust him to open his big mouth. Kaakon is going to kill him when she finds out. But as he was thinking what his mother was going to do to his big mouth godfather for saying something he shouldn't in front of people, Naruto then remembered something else that Kushina said. Wait, Kushina-sensei, you said that your family name is Uzumaki, as in the Uzumaki clan from Uzushi Ogakure no Sato, village hidden among the whirling tides? asked Naruto, where Kushina just nodded. Then that means we're related in a way, as our clans were distant relatives, and my great-grandmother Uzumaki Nito was from your clan, stated Naruto. As he knew all about his clan relation to the Uzumaki clan, and how both the Uzumaki clan and his clan shared a common ancestor, and were distantly related to one another, and had close ties. She had even told them that those ties continued on when his clan formed Konoha, and the Uzumaki formed Uzushiogakure, where both villages had equally strong ties, which were only strengthened when his great-grandfather married his great-grandmother Uzumaki Nito. When the village was destroyed at the end of the Second Great Shinobi World War, as a sign of respect and as a sign of the strong friendship between the two villages, countries and clans, all Konoha shinobi vests bear the crest of Uzushiogakure. I guess you could say that, said Kushina, as in a way Naruto was right. That's pretty cool, as in a way we're kind of like distant cousins, something, said Naruto with a smile. Yeah, I guess we are, replied Kushina with her own smile. Yamato, who was watching this, could not help but smile, and silently remark at how much alike the two were, and was glad that they were getting on so well, as it made things a lot easier when he and Kushina started teaching Naruto. As despite his great skill and talent, Naruto still had a lot to learn. Hey! Now that I think about it, I also remember hearing your name from Ero Sennin and something about you, spoke Naruto. At this Kushina became slightly worried. As she was hopping, it wasn't about her past relationship with his father, as if he did know that, then it could make things very awkward from them, especially when she was training him. Now I remember. You used to be in my dad's class when he was in the academy. There was also some nickname that they used to call you, said Naruto as he was trying to remember. What was it now? Apple, tomboy, Promato. Yeah, now I remember, it was tomato, because of your round face and red hair that was shaped like a tomato, said Naruto. But in the moment after Naruto said tomato, he began to wish he hadn't, as when he said it he suddenly came face to face with something that even made his father, the legendary Konoha no Kiroi Senko, Konoha's yellow flash, cower in fear, as he came face to face with a furious Kushina. For the moment that Naruto said the word Tamato, a dark terrifying aura surrounded Kushina along with glowing eerily red eyes, while her bright red hair began to rise and move around like roaring flames. Yamato, who saw this, slowly yet silently moved away a bit and behind a nearby tree, as he didn't want to be near what he knew what was going to happen next. As Kushina temper was legendary in ANBU, where if they valued their lives no one, not even the Hokage, would dare piss the women off. He also hoped Kushina wouldn't kill Naruto, as if she did, chances were the Hokage may pin the blame on him, when Tsunade returned and found her son was killed, so that he wouldn't have to face Tsunade wrath himself. In that moment when he saw Kushina in her terrifying form, that Naruto also remembered another name that Kushina was known as, the Akai Chishio no Habanero, red hot-blooded habanero, or according to his godfather. Back when she was a kid, a group of kids teased her openly over her hairstyle, and it being new, having enough of their teasing, she had attacked all of them and beating them into a bloody pummel, and did so to anyone else who ever teased her. This of course earned her the nickname Akai Chishio no Habanero. It was when Naruto came face to the furious-looking Kushina that he finally learned what it was like to be his perverted godfather when he was facing his mother's fury. For according to Jiraiya, Kushina's fury was said to rival even his mother's fury, where it could make the likes of his father, Jiraiya, and the Sandaime cower like frightened rabbits in the face of it. Crap! Thought Naruto when he saw Kushina, where he could have swore he saw devil-like horns sporting out of her head. After which he then did the only thing a man could done in his position, he ran like the wind, with Kushina the Akai Chishio no Habanero hot on his heels. For the next hour or so people from around Konoha could hear loud explosions, angry and frightened cries coming from the forest, as well as seeing several large mushroom-shaped clouds from large explosions. After about an hour or so, Yamato was finally able to calm his captain down, although it had not been easy. Luckily though, Naruto was quite good at evading all of Kushina's attacks thanks to many years of his mother's bombardment training. Hence, other than a few scratches that were quickly healed thanks to the Kyuubi, Naruto was relatively unharmed. Once Kushina had calmed down, Naruto made a mental note never to piss off Kushina, or get on her bad side again, although another part of him, the prankster part of him, made a mental note to get his godfather in trouble with her and see what she would do than him. So if you guys know about my dad, then I guess you also know about you know what? Asked Naruto, referring to the Kyuubi. Yes, we are also aware of that, which was another reason why Kushina-senpai and I were selected by the Sandaime Hokage to train you. So that in the event that you might accidentally unleash the Kyuubi's powers in battle, and you lose control of yourself, Kushina-senpai, or I can stop you and contain you until you revert to your normal state, replied Yamato. But I have never used the Kyuubi power before, nor do I know how to beside. According Aro-sennin, my Mokuton powers help suppress its powers and most of its effect on me, retorted Naruto. That is most likely true, but eventually at some point you will be called upon to use it or accidentally access its power during battle, and regardless of your Mokuton powers. The Kyuubi chakra and influence can overcome you, as like all Jinchurikis, your emotions are linked to your Biju. So if you feel a tremendous rage or anger, it highly likely that you will inadvertently access the Kyuubi's power and go out of control, spoke Yamato. Okay, I get that, but what can you guys do to stop me if I do go out of control when I'm using the Kyuubi power? Asked Naruto. Well, like you Naruto-san, I possess the power of Mokuton, while Kushina-senpai has particularly strong chakra that is well suited for restraining Jinchurikis or more precise Biju if they go out of control. Also, Kushina-senpai is extremely skilled and knowledgeable in Fuinjutsu, where she shared some of her knowledge with the Yondaime Hokage, spoke Yamato. At this revelation, Naruto was of course surprised. You taught my dad Fuinjutsu? But Aro-sennin always said he taught my dad everything he knew in Fuinjutsu, said Naruto in surprise. Jiraiya likes to think he did, but I thought your dad few tricks here, or there is my clan were famed throughout the world as Fuinjutsu masters, replied Kushina. So could you teach me some things? Asked Naruto eagerly. That what I'm here for, replied Kushina with a smile, where Naruto then started to jump up and down saying how he couldn't wait to get started, before he then stopped, as there was something else he wanted to know. Wait. How are you able to do Mokuton? The only other person alive other than me that can use Mokuton is a guy named Tenzo, as he had my great-granddad's DNA placed in him by that snake team Orochimaru when he was a baby, spoke Naruto. Naruto knew all this thanks to Jiraiya, who told him, upon telling him, how Naruto was going to be trained in using his Mokuton bloodline. When Naruto learned what Orochimaru did, it made him sick, where he swore if he ever saw the snake bastard he'd punch him so hard that he splatter all over the continent. That is I, as Yamato is my code name, which is what I would like you to refer to me if you please, although my real name in Tenzo, spoke Yamato/Tenzo. Okay then I mean Yamato-sensei, spoke Naruto until he realized something. Hey, I just realized, if you got my grandfather's DNA in you, then that means you and I are related too. At this, Yamato raised an eyebrow in surprise, and thought about it for a moment and realized that technically Naruto was correct, as he did indeed have the Shodaime Hokage's DNA, meaning that technically he was in a way related to Naruto. I believe one could see it that way, but if you would Naruto-san, I would like you to keep that revelation hidden for now at least, as it would cause unneeded confusion and questions among the populace of Konoha. So I would think it best that we keep this to ourselves, spoke Yamato, where Naruto just nodded in understanding. Okay kid, I think it's time for your introduction, as we have both done ours, while you have yet to do yours, spoke Kushina. Okay then, spoke Naruto, my name is Senju Naruto. My likes include ramen, my kachan, Shizun Wani-chan, our pet pig Taunton, Aro-sennin, playing pranks, my friends, training and reading. I dislike bullies, traitors, the 3 minutes that take to cook my ramen, and perverts. My hobbies are training, reading and gardening and making perverts suffer. My dreams for the future are to be a great medic nin like my kachan, to restore my clan into beta greatest Hokage. That way, people will stop always comparing me to the rest of my family and acknowledge me as myself, and not someone related to great ninjas. So you better put your dream of being Hokage on hold for a while, sensei, because I'm going to be Hokage, said Naruto with confidence. At this, Kushina just smirked and said, will we see about that soon enough, kid? Okay then, now that introductions are all done, Naruto-san, I would like to know exactly how many jutsus you know, and how skilled you are in your Mokuton Mokotan bloodline, so that I will know where to start, said Yamato. Also I want to know how skilled you're in using your katana and what kind of seals that Ero Sennin has taught you, said Kushina, using Naruto nickname form Jiraiya, as she just loved the sound of it as it fitted so well with Jiraiya. Not to mention she couldn't wait to see him again and see his reaction when she starts calling him that. Well, in water ninjutsu I know Suiton, Mizurappa, water style, violent water wave, Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, water clone technique, Suiton, Tepadama, water style, gunshot, Suiton, Soryuden no Jutsu, water style, water dragon bullet technique, and Mizufu, Kanbo Rakurai, Psycho no Suryuden Danaki, water, wind, lightning combo, supreme electric water dragon. In earth ninjutsu I know Doton, Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu, earth style, double suicide decapitation technique, Doton, Moguragakur no Jutsu, earth style, hiding like a mole technique, Doton, Docho Igyo no Jutsu, earth style, underground projection fish technique, Doton, Doreka Geishi, earth style, earth shore return, Doton, Retsudo Tensho, earth style, tearing earth turning palm, and Tsuchi Bunshin no Jutsu, earth clone technique. I don't really know any lightning techniques other than how to channel it into my katana to increase my katana's cutting and stabbing power. With the exception of Surashufu, wind slash, I don't really know any wind techniques, other than how to channel it into my katana to increase its range and cutting power. As for Mokotan I know Moku Bunshin no Jutsu, would clone technique, Mokotan, Henge, would release, transformation, and 2 technique I created myself Mokotan, Mokushaku would release, wooden tentacles, and Mokotan, no Sashi, would release, impaling roots. In Jinjutsu I know Megan, Kokoni Ereza no Jutsu, demonic illusion, false surroundings technique, Kori Shinsha no Jutsu, sly mind effect technique, Megan, Narakumi no Jutsu, demonic illusion, hell viewing technique, Megan, Jabaka Satsu, demonic illusion, tree binding death, Megan, Niju Kokoni Ereza no Jutsu, demonic illusion, double false surroundings technique. As for sealing, well I know how to do a chakra suppressing seal, although it not that strong. I know Shikoku Fuan, finger engraving seal, Kekai Kodai Fuan, for corner immobilization seal, Fuan Jutsu, Shurshuro Mamazuk Shiru, sealing technique, for limbs weighting seal, Infuan, Kai In seal, release, and generic sealing. I also know regular henge, transformation, Bunshin no Jutsu, clone technique, Kagebushin no Jutsu, shadow clone technique, Taju Kagebunshin no Jutsu, multiple shadow clone technique, Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique, Kawarimi no Jutsu, body replacement technique, and using Shozen Jutsu, mystical palm technique, Chakura no Mezu, chakra scalpel. My taijutsu is okay especially when I use my superhuman strength, although I can't really rate it as I created my own style myself. I'm pretty good when it comes to healing injuries, illnesses and poisons, and using poisons, although I'm nowhere near Kaachan's and Shizunwanichan's levels. My kenjutsu is also okay as I had some decent teachers, and I'm also pretty good when it comes to using and throwing kunais, senbon's needles and shurikens, said Naruto. Upon hearing all this both Kushina and Yamato were naturally wide-eyed with surprise, as they never expected Naruto to know so many different jutsus, as it was exceedingly rare for anyone Naruto's age to know so many different technique, let alone a genin. Wow, that an impressive arsenal you got there, kid, commented Kushina. Indeed, replied Yamato, as he was also impressed that Naruto was able to use any Mokotan techniques with no real help, not to mention create his own Mokotan jutsu. As when he first started to use his Mokotan powers, Yamato had to rely heavily on the Mokotan scrolls he was given by the Tsunade Hokage from the Senju clan's secret library. Also he noticed that with the exception of Shozen Jutsu, Chakura no Mezu, Megan, Jabaka Satsu, Infuan, Kai Suiton, Soryuden no Jutsu, Mizufu, Kanbo Rakurai, Psycho no Suryuden Danaki, Surashifu, Kagebushin no Jutsu and the Taju Kagebunshin no Jutsu, most of Naruto other jutsus were C, D and E rank jutsus. But I'm not familiar with the Infuan, Kai jutsu that you mentioned, stated Kushina. That's because it's Infuan jutsu that Kaachan created herself and she placed on me and taught me how to use, replied Naruto, as he then took off his Konoha headband and lifted his fringe to show a blue diamond on his forehead, much like his mother was known to have. "What does it do?" asked Kushina, generally curious. "The seal involves me focusing and building up a large amount of chakra, and storing it into the diamond-shaped seal on my forehead over a period of time. When I release the seal, the chakra that I have stored in the seal is to pump back into my body. This then allows me to perform another technique that Kaa-chan created and taught to me called the Sozo Seze, creation rebirth, which uses the chakra I disperse to stimulate the proteins of my body, so to increase the speed of cell division and reconstruction of cells for as long as I have chakra. This allows me to recreate any organs and tissues that I may lose or is damaged, thus it is the absolute pinnacle of medical ninjutsu. Although the technique itself does not regenerate the old cells, rather it hastens the creation of new ones through division, so in a way for the duration of the technique the user gains a form of immortality as they cannot be killed easily, stated Naruto. Upon hearing this, Yamato and Kushina were left gaping at hearing of Tsunade creating such a technique, as well as Naruto being able to use such a technique. Although it proved without the shadow of a doubt that Tsunade was indeed the greatest medic in the entire world, as to be able to create such amazing technique. Although like all great ninjutsu this one has a serious side effect, continued Naruto, causing Kushina and Yamato to refocus their attention on him again. For you see, a body's cells can only split a certain number of times in a lifetime, and by speeding up this process, the user lifespan will shorten depending on the level of injuries they suffer. For example, if the user suffers not very serious injuries, then the user will lose very little of their lifespan, although if they're on the verge of dying or suffer a mortal wound, they will lose a large part of their lifespan. This is why Kaa-chan has made both Sozo Seze and Infuan, Kai's rank techniques, and declared the Sozo Seze Kenjutsu, said Naruto. After hearing all this, both Yamato and Kushina were once again stunned to hear of the side effect of the technique, for as amazing as the technique was, it had a serious double edge to it. "Why would Tsunade teach you such a technique if it's so dangerous?" asked Kushina, as she found it hard to believe that Tsunade would teach her own son such a dangerous technique. "Kaa-chan would rather have me shorten my lifespan by a bit, rather than lose my life entirely," answered Naruto simply. Hearing Naruto's answer, Kushina could only reluctantly agree with what Tsunade did, as if she was in Tsunade's position she'd rather have her child live with a slightly shorter lifespan than not at all. "Very then, Naruto-san, now that we know where you stand in jutsu, we will test you on your taijutsu and kenjutsu skill," spoke Yamato. For the next hour or so Yamato spared with Naruto in taijutsu, without Naruto using his superhuman strength, where he was then able to gauge Naruto taijutsu skill level. When finished, Yamato had to admit that Naruto taijutsu skill was quite impressive, and was equally impressed that he created it himself. Although there was several faults with his taijutsu, such as his stances could be too rigid at times, or he could not react as well as he should, and often enough he left himself unbalanced at times, where an opponent could easily make him fall. But despite these defects along with several others, Naruto fighting style could one day prove to be a powerful fighting style one day, once he had perfected it, which he could with enough practice and the right training. After Yamato had finished sparring with Naruto, Kushina then began her spar with him in kenjutsu, where they spared for another hour. When finished, Kushina was greatly impressed with Naruto's skill, as unlike with his taijutsu, Kushina could tell that he had some training from a skilled swordsman. Since Naruto's skill with a katana was too high for it not to be, as he had proved he could hold his own for a while in a serious sword fight, before being defeated. When she had finished sparring with him, she asked who had trained him, where Naruto had told her about the incident at the Fire Daimyo's country estate, and how as a reward for saving his granddaughter, the Fire Daimyo had summoned Kensai, the strongest samurai and swordsman in Hai no Kuni, to train Naruto in using kenjutsu. Although Naruto did not mention Killer Bee has also trained him in kenjutsu, as he feared Kushina and Yamato would tell the Hokage, and causing many unwanted questions for him to answer, especially ones from his mother when she found out. Upon hearing Naruto saving the Fire Daimyo granddaughter, Kushina could not help but smile, as she could tell that Naruto had inherited his father's habit of going off to rescue people in danger and putting himself in harm's way. "Well, brat, you sure know some powerful people, as having saved the fire daimyo's granddaughter probably earned you a lot of brownie points with him, as having someone like the fire daimyo as a friend and OU1, can certainly come in handy. Who knows, he might even later on try and arrange for you and his granddaughter to be hitched, teased Kushina, knowing it probably annoy Naruto, which it did. It's not like that, Rurakayo-chan and I are friends and that's it. Stated an annoyed Naruto. Oh, Rurakayo-chan, is it? You sure move fast, kid. Are you trying to become the next fire daimyo already? Teased Kushina further, as she was really enjoying teasing Naruto. Hearing this caused Naruto to turn bright red, with anger and embarrassment at Kushina's teasing. She's as bad as One-E-chan. Thought anger Naruto. Seeing how angry Naruto was getting at Kushina's teasing and not wanting to have to chase after Naruto when he loses his temper and goes after Kushina, Yamato decided to nip it in the bud, suggesting that they all go out to dinner to celebrate their team's formation. This of course got the desired result, where the subject was changed from Naruto's relationship with the fire daimyo's granddaughter. As both Kushina and Naruto agreed, when asked where they would eat, both Kushina and Naruto shouted out Ichirako Ramen Bar, which caused Yamato to sweat drop at the two ramen fanatics. Soon enough, Naruto and his two new senseis walked out of the forest and headed for Ichiraku. As they walked through the crowded streets, where many people would stop to stare at Naruto and his senseis, or they would simply greet him, which Naruto would do in return. As they walked on through the streets, both Kushina and Yamato felt as if they were being watched by someone, but when they looked around they saw and felt nothing. After failing to see or feel anything, both former ANBU members believed it was just them acting paranoid, as often enough when in the crowded streets of Konoha, the shinobis would sometimes feel as they're being watched when they weren't, due to always being on guard on missions. As Yamato, Kushina and Naruto walked on, a figure hiding behind the water tower on the roof of a building came out and continued to watch Naruto and his senseis, although did not try to follow anymore. My, that was close. I can't forget I dealing with the Burati Shinka no Ikari, bloody Crimson Fury, and clearly the other person with her is a high-level ANBU like her, since he was just able to sense me. I can't afford to follow them like this, as chances are I might not be so lucky if I continue to try and follow them, thought the person following them, or when he stepped out from behind the water tower and he revealed himself to be Kabuto. Kabuto had been secretly following Naruto since they left the forest, but as he tired to get closer, Kushina and Tenzo sensed him for a moment, forcing him to hide. He had tried to follow Naruto earlier, but had been forced to stop when Kushina appeared. He also could not afford to follow them to the third training ground, as he doubted he could avoid detection with two former ANBU captains there. Kabuto of course knew a great deal about Kushina, as she was a person of noteworthy interest, being a highly skilled and powerful shinobi as well as ANBU, much like Kakashi. As if he went by her reputation alone, Kabuto knew she would a person that he would like to avoid fighting. Unfortunately, Kabuto did not know anything about Yamato other than he was a former ANBU like Kushina. Deciding to leave his surveillance of Naruto for now, Kabuto then decided to send a report to his master Orochimaru that Naruto had left his former team and was under the apprenticeship of Uzumaki Kushina and another former ANBU named Yamato. He knew that his master wouldn't be too pleased of him gathering so little about Naruto's skill level, abilities and anything more about him, but there was little he could do without jeopardizing his cover, as he needed to stay in Konoha for just a little longer. But he planned on continuing his surveillance of Naruto another time, when things settled down a bit and hopeful Naruto and his teacher would have let their guard down a bit. He also made a mental note to try and find what out he could on Naruto's other teacher Yamato, as Kabuto was a perfectionist and didn't like to miss anything, as when it came to world of espionage, nothing could be left to chance or unknown, as even the small detail could decide the outcome of a mission's success or failure. Soon enough, Kabuto left his spot at the water tower and returned home and prepare his report to Orochimaru, with Naruto, Kushina and Yamato. Soon after Kushina, Naruto and Yamato arrived at Ichiraku, where Kushina and Naruto proceeded to have a who could eat the most ramen contest, where the loser would have to pay. At this, Yamato could only watch, as the counter became full of large towers of empty ramen bowls. Tochi of course was overjoyed at the sight, as this would be a boon to his business, as naturally when he and his daughter first heard the Sandame's announcement about Naruto being Tsunade's son and the Senju clan's heir, they had both been shocked. When they asked Naruto why he didn't tell them, he explained that he didn't want to be treated any differently than anyone else, where all he wanted was to be treated like a regular person. Upon hearing this, they began to see where Naruto was coming from, as they could tell that he didn't like all the fame and attention he got, simply because he was the heir of the Shodame, the Nidame, and Tsunade of the Sannin. After which both Tenchi and I treated Naruto like he wanted, as a regular person, and did not call him Senju-sama or Naruto-sama. As both Kushina and Naruto continued their ramen eating contest, Kushina noticed Naruto blushing a bit when I handed him another large bowl of ramen. Seeing that Naruto had a little schoolboy crush on the ramen chief's daughter, Kushina decided to tease Naruto a bit. Where she whispered Naruto and I sitting in a tree. As well as saying what would Princess Rurakayo and Cheyenne think if they saw this. As Naruto had told them about what had happened in Oni no Kuni, Demon Country, with Cheyenne, when they were walking to Ichiraku's. At this, Naruto turned bright red and glared angrily at the red-headed women next to him. Once Yamato had finished his bowl of ramen and seeing that Naruto and Kushina had not finished their little eating contest, he decided to go to the bathroom behind the ramen bar. Soon after Yamato had left to go to the bathroom, Naruto and Kushina contest ended in a draw, as Tenchi and I had run out of ramen to give to the two. It was upon hearing this that Naruto decided on another little contest they could have. Hey Kushina-sensei, since our contest ended in a draw, how about we have another contest, but this time instead of ramen we see who can prank the most people, said Naruto, knowing that his sensei liked to play pranks as much as he did. At this, Kushina grew an evil little smile that would make a certain snake Sannin proud, as she already liked Naruto's idea. You're on, Naruto. Okay then, let's start off by pranking Yamato-sensei, said Naruto, where he then whispered his idea into Kushina's ear, which caused the red-headed women to grin evilly. Soon after, Yamato came out of the bathroom to find the stools that Naruto and Kushina had been sitting on empty. Where did those two go? Asked Yamato out loud, where Tochi answered. They left together just a few minutes ago. Also here, this is for your, said Tochi, as had handed Yamato a small slip of paper. What is it? Asked Yamato. The total bill, as they said you would be paying, replied the ramen chief as he rubbed his hands together eagerly, knowing the amount due. Upon hearing this, Yamato looked to the grand total of the bill, where his eyes suddenly widened to the size of saucers at the amount due, upon which an anger roar to be heard around Konoha. Ninoro Tutu. Kuwasa Shihina. Which was followed by a loud wailing sound, as the former ANBU member cried over his now empty wallet. This of course was not an isolated incident, as for the remainder of the day was followed many similar cries of anger, surprise and explosions, along with much cackling and laughter coming from a red-headed Uzumaki and blonde-haired Senju. As they unleashed total chaos on the unsuspecting village, where they competed against one another to find out who the better prankster was. The next day, in the Hokage's office, currently sitting at his desk and fighting the never-ending battle against the arch-nemesis of all Kages and ruling leaders of nations, paperwork. As he had just about finished half of his paperwork, the Sandame was certain that he could get the rest done in a few hours' time, where he could then spend the remainder of the day catching up on his reading of Ika violence. But upon thinking this, the Hokage's secretary came in with his 4 ANBU guards, where all 5 of them were carrying massive towers of paper, and laid them all on the Hokage's desk. WWWH, what is all this? Asked the surprised elder Sarutobi. These are reports that need your signature, overview and stamp of approval on, replied the secretary. What? Cried the old Hokage as he stood up and slammed his hands on his desk in surprise, which caused the large towers of paperwork, along with the paperwork he originally had on his desk, to fall and collapsed on top of his and bury him under it. Soon after, the 4 ANBU guards dug their Hokage out of the mountain of paperwork, where the old Hokage started to weep as he now not only had to do even more paperwork, but he would also have to sort out the paperwork he had already done from the paperwork he hadn't done. Soon after he noticed that all his new paperwork were incident reports, damage reports and complaints about a large number of pranks that were played yesterday. Upon seeing this, the Sandaime Hokage knew exactly who were responsible for this new mountain of paperwork, where he then let out a large angry cry that could be heard all around Konoha, nnnnaaarrruuttoo. Kuwasa Shihina. After which loud sorrowful cries could be heard coming from the Hokage's office, as he wept at the fact he now had even more paperwork and working well into the late of night. Not to mention, more importantly, he wouldn't get to read Ika Violence again. Chapter 14 Teams. Training Ground 7. Upon leaving his previous team and becoming the apprentice of both Yamato and Kushina, the past 2 weeks had become fairly interesting for Naruto. For the first few days both Kushina and Naruto had been stuck doing E-rank missions, as punishment for their pranking contest, which Naruto won by redesigning the entire ANBU division masks with ridiculous faces, where several of the members had to wear them as they chased after Naruto. Not to mention for all the damage they did during the contest, and for ruining the Hokage's private reading time with his Ika book. Yamato of course refused to help either of them, as he was still a bit peeved at how they left him holding the bill at the ramen stand. Eventually though things calmed down and Naruto got onto some hard training with his two senseis, Kushina of course decided that she would help train Naruto to further improve his kenjutsu, by teaching him her Arasuijin no Mai, Dance of the Raging Water Goddess, sword style, which she created. The style itself involved using not only a sword, but also water as a weapon as well, which was why the style was best used around a large nearby water source. But since Naruto could draw a large amount of water from the plants and air around him, he did not have this handicap. Yamato on the other hand started training Naruto to better use his Mokuton bloodline. During the course of the past few weeks Naruto's skill in his bloodline improved, where instead of needing seeds to grow trees, he was able to create a fully grown one out of the ground by himself. Yamato also taught Naruto how to create wood binds, where Naruto could create wooden binds that would come from his body and wrap themselves around an opponent's body and subdue the person. But what amazed Yamato when he was training Naruto was that Naruto could not only grow trees and wooden objects, but also grow plants and manipulate them to a certain degree, something that he, Yamato, himself couldn't do. Hence when Yamato informed the Sandaime, the old Hokage could not help but wonder if this was another mutation of Mokuton bloodline, or the next evolution to the bloodline, much like how the Sharingan can evolve to the Mangekyo Sharingan. But regardless of this, Yamato continued to help Naruto with his Mokuton abilities and in his plant abilities as well. Nicely done there Naruto. Spoke Kushina as she avoided another one of Naruto's slashes, but try this. She cried as she then stabbed forwards with her katana. Seeing this, Naruto did a backwards flip and landed on the small pond that was near them, where he channeled chakra to his feet so that he could walk on the surface. After Naruto avoided her attack, Kushina quickly jumped forward and onto the pond and attempted to slash at him again. Seeing Kushina coming towards him, Naruto quickly dipped his katana into the water underneath him and cried out Mizu no Jasho, rising water. Swinging his kanata upward, creating several waves of water around him and acting like a wall of water, blocking Kushina's attack and making her jump backwards, away from the wall of water. As soon as Kushina jumped away from the wall of water, it quickly collapsed and Naruto then charged forward towards Kushina swinging his katana in a horizontal slash. When Kushina saw this, she quickly raised her sword to block Naruto's slash with her katana, but when she did, she quickly realized that Naruto's slash was a feint, as Naruto had dropped his katana into his other hand in mid-swing, making Kushina think that Naruto's first slash was real. When the actual attack was the second slash, which Kushina could not avoid or block in time, or when Naruto swung his katana, he cried out Mizu no Atsuan, rolling water. And slashed at Kushina's stomach. Thinking he had got Kushina, Naruto smiled, but it quickly faded when he saw Kushina revert into water, revealing that she had replaced herself with a Mizu Bunshin, water clone. Pretty good Naruto, you learned to use Mizu no Atsuan better than I expected you to, but still, you're lagging a bit when you're switching your katana from one hand to the other, spoke Kushina a bit away from behind Naruto, who quickly spun around to face his sensei. As soon as Naruto spun around to face her, Kushina quickly threw several kunais, with exploding notes tied to them at Naruto. Seeing them, Naruto then quickly spun his katana, and held it backwards and quickly started to spin around at high speed and drawing the water around him to create a swirling vortex of water around himself. As Naruto spun around, he quickly cried out the name of the technique Senkai no Mizu, swirling water. See, where when the kunais hit the swirling water barrier, they exploded. But thankfully, the swirling water shield did its job and protected Naruto from the blast. Nicely done, Naruto. Now let's see how much you have improved these past 2 weeks, said Kushina, before she then drew some water from the pond underneath her and coated her katana with it. After which she then charged forward with her katana thrusted forward at Naruto at high speed, where she cried out Takeo Yogi, treading water. D. When Naruto saw Kushina coming at him with her water-covered katana thrusted forward, he quickly prepared to counter, where just when Kushina was only a few feet away from him, Naruto quickly swung his katana down onto the water and created a large wave of water that acted like a wall that separated himself and Kushina. The wall of water of course did little to stop Kushina's attack, but when Kushina struck through the wall of water and stabbed Naruto, the wall of water collapsed and Naruto collapsed with it, revealing that the Naruto behind the wall was just a reflection created by the wall of water. Water. Mizu no Kagayaku, glittering water. When did he fully master that? I only showed him that move a few days ago. Thought Kushina in surprise, as she had only shown Naruto that move once. But as Kushina was recovering from her surprise at Naruto mastering Mizu no Kagayaku so quickly and at how she had been tricked by Naruto, the real Naruto appeared from behind her, with his katana covered in water, charging at Kushina at his top speed with his katana thrust forward, showing that he was using Takeo Yogi. Sensing danger from behind, thanks to her many years in the ANBU division, Kushina quickly flipped backwards, just as Naruto was about to stab her, whereas she flipped over Naruto she kicked him in the back on the head slightly. This caused Naruto to fall forward and into the water, due to losing his balance as he was charging forward at high speed. Naruto of course quickly regained himself, after falling into the water and immediately swam to the surface, unfortunately though once he got back onto his feet and onto the surface of the pond. Naruto quickly saw Kushina charging at him with astonishing speed, with her katana ready to slash at him. Knowing that he didn't have time to try and block his sensei's attack, Naruto tried to jump away and avoid the attack. Sadly though it was too late for him to try, as the next second Kushina disappeared right before his eyes and reappeared behind him with her back to him and holding her katana downward, where she simply said in a calm but serious voice, "It's over." The next thing Naruto knew, dozens of small cuts appeared all over his body, and he collapsed onto the water unable to move. 15 minutes later. Ow. Sensei, that hurts! Cried Naruto in pain as Kushina spread some healing cream over his cuts that her attack made. "Oh come brat, don't be such a baby," teased Kushina as she continued to spread the cream over Naruto's cuts. "I'm not, you just suck at being a medic. I still don't know why you won't let me treat myself and, ow," said Naruto before he cried out in pain from the stinging of the healing cream being rubbed too hard onto his cuts. "Cuts. You did that on purpose," cried Naruto, as he glared slightly at his red-haired sensei, who just smirked. After Kushina had covered all of Naruto's cuts with the healing cream, Naruto turned to his female sensei, "Kushina-sensei, what was that last move you used on me?" The move was called Jinsaku Mizu, Swift Water. It's one of my stronger moves, where I use my water affinity to gather tiny small blades water from the moisture in the air and around my blade, allowing me to cut my opponents multiple times when I swing it. In a way I use the very air itself as my weapon. Wow, stated an impressed Naruto, "Can you teach me that?" "Maybe later, since that move is a little bit too advanced for you yet," replied Kushina, where Naruto got a disappointed look on his face upon hearing this. "Do not look so disappointed, Naruto-san. You've already shown impressive skills by mastering most of the basic moves in Kushina's Arasuijin no Mai style," spoke Yamato, as he had been watching the sparring match between Kushina and Naruto. He's right, Naruto, you've already progressed faster than I expected you to. You should be proud of what you have accomplished so far, but you should take your time to fully master the rest of the basic moves, and then improve on them, before wanting to learn my more advanced moves. Since if you advance too quickly, you won't gain the experience needed to use the techniques to their full potential, or the knowledge to later improve on them, spoke Kushina. Naruto of course nodded in understanding, as back when he was younger, Jiraiya had told him something similar back when he was training him, stating that a man who has mastered using a wooden stick in a fight will always defeat a novice who is using a steel sword. Although your spar battle was very impressive, I've to say it seemed to have gone a bit too far for my taste, spoke Yamato, where he stared at Kushina. Humph. Don't look at me, I told the kid that if he wanted to learn my fighting style, it would be harsh and I wouldn't go easy on him. Besides, I held back when I used my Jinsaka Mizu, where all he got was a few cuts, for if I hadn't he would be in pieces right now, replied Kushina. Naruto of course reluctantly agreed with Kushina's comment, as he knew that Kushina could have beaten him easily at any time during their fight, since she was a former ANBU captain and had far more experience and skill than he had right now. Yamato also nodded, since he knew how strong Kushina was from several missions he had done with her over the years and knew she had held back a great deal during her spar with Naruto. But still, he had found that she might have went a little bit overboard during the fight, as regardless of how talented Naruto was, he was still only a young boy and a newly made genin, where he could have easily gotten seriously hurt. Very well then, but we'll finish training today, as it's time for your joint training with the other teams, as Asuma-san, Kakashi-san and Kurenai-san have sent their time schedules to me inditing when it would be best for them for you to train or work with their teams, spoke Yamato. So who will I be joining today, Yamato-sensei? Asked Naruto. Today you'll be working with Kurenai-san and her team, then tomorrow you'll be working with Asuma-san and Team 10, and the next day you'll be with your former team, Team 7, answered Yamato. Naruto of course was happy he would be working with Hinata and her team first, as he hadn't seen her since the team sortings, although he wasn't too thrilled with being Kiba and could only hope he matured a bit, although it was unlikely. He didn't mind working with Team 10 much, as he didn't really know them all that well other than that girl Ino, who he crashed into a while back, and who had been following him not too long ago. Although what got Naruto slightly worried about her was that, he had the sneaking suspicion that she was becoming, or had already become another one of his fangirls, given how she was following him a while back. This of course was the last thing Naruto wanted or needed given how he had enough trouble with the ones he already had and didn't need any more. But as annoyed as Naruto was about having the possibility of another fangirl, and having to work with her, the thing that bothered him most was that he would be working with Sasuke, Sakura and Sai. Sure, he was happy he would get to train a bit with the famed copycat ninja Hatake Kakashi, but even he wasn't too thrilled with having to work with Sasuke, Sai and Sakura. Sasuke of course annoyed him the least of the three as he was strong and a serious shinobi at least, but he refused to work with others, believing that they just hold him back. Not to mention the fact that he was too busy brooding in his own personal little world to even talk to someone like an equally, always believing that they were just a waste of time and space. Next there was Sai, who although Naruto had only met once, still disliked, since Naruto found him to be a jerk, despite his friendly-like appearance. There was also the fact that there was something that was off about him, which made Naruto not trust him, despite the obvious clues. Since to Naruto he seemed like some kind of human doll doing the bidding of another. Then finally there was Sakura, who Naruto found the most annoying, as it was obvious that she was infatuated with Sasuke and wouldn't agree with anything with anyone unless Sasuke said it. What annoyed Naruto even more was that she wasn't even a serious shinobi, as she obviously only became a ninja in the hopes of getting close to Sasuke. This was of course unacceptable to Naruto, as people like Sakura get herself and her team killed on a serious mission, given how her physical and other skills were minimum at best, and the only thing she had going for her were her book smarts, which would only get her so far in the real world. The only thing Naruto could do was hope that at some point she would get a serious wake-up call before it was too late. After Naruto had rested a bit and ate a bit of lunch with his two senseis, he headed off to meet Kurenai and the other members of Team 8. With Kurenai, Currently waiting at Training Ground 2 was the Jonin sensei of Team 8 Yuhi Kurinai, who was currently waiting for her 3 students and her new part-time student Senju Naruto. As she quietly waited for her student's arrival, she soon saw Naruto walking towards her. As he came closer, Kurinai noticed that Naruto had several cuts on his clothes and on his arms, which were nearly healed. "Greetings Naruto-san," spoke Kurinai friendly, as she remembered that Naruto did not like being referred to as Sama, plus since he was her student now she would treat him like any of her other students. Ohio, Kurinai-sensei greeted Naruto with a friendly smile. "I hope nothing serious happened?" asked Kurinai, as she indicated at the cuts on Naruto's clothes and the slight healed cuts on his arms. "No, not really, just training with Kushina-sensei," answered Naruto, where Kurinai just nodded as she heard how during spars or training Kushina could be a bit rough. "Well Naruto, since we've a few minutes before the others arrive, I believe I should tell you how exactly I be training you. Now as you know the Hokage has asked me to help in you training in Genjutsu. But I can only train you part-time, as I have my own team to train, but during the time that you're with my team you'll also work on missions with us." "Sure, that fine by me Kurinai-sensei." "Good, now I would like to know what kind of genjutsus you know, so that I will know where to start with your training." "Well, I know only a couple of genjutsus like Magen, Kokoni Erasa no Jutsu, Demonic Illusion, False Surroundings Technique, Magen, Niju Kokoni Erasa no Jutsu, Demonic Illusion, Double False Surroundings Technique, Magen, Narukami no Jutsu, Demonic Illusion, Hell Viewing Technique, Kori Shinsha no Jutsu, Sly Mind Effect Technique, Magen, Jabaka Satsu, Demonic Illusion, Tree Binding Death, and I also know how to detect and release myself genjutsus." At hearing this, Kurinai raised her eyebrow, as she was impressed with Naruto's skill level in genjutsu, and only wish he had been as skilled when she was his age. Naruto and Kurinai continued to talk for the next few minutes, until Kurinai's team arrived. "Senju, what the hell are you doing here?" asked annoyed Kiba when he came up to Naruto and Kurinai. "Kiba, be respectful, as Naruto here will be working with our team from time to time, where he will be training with us and doing missions with us as well," spoke Kurinai. "What?" cried Kiba in surprise. At the same time, upon hearing this, Shino raised an eyebrow and turned to look at Naruto, while Hinata smiled at having the chance of working with her friend and training with him. "Why the hell is he working with our team? He has his own team," spoke an angry Kiba. Due to special circumstances that involved Naruto, he was taken from his team and made an apprentice to 2 other Jonin senseis, and will work part-time with us and his original team, Team 7, and with Team 10, replied Kurinai. "And what are these circumstances?" asked Kiba. "I'm afraid I can't tell you, Kiba, as it's on a need to know," answered Kurinai. At hearing this, Kiba just frowned, since as far as he was concerned, Naruto was just getting more special treatment for being the heir of the Senju clan, which proved to him that he was a sliver spoon shinobi. "So what are we doing first, Kurinai-sensei?" asked Naruto. "Well, we'll be doing a mission first at the Inuzuka dog pound," answered Kurinai, making Kiba groan, as he had been doing that kind of work ever since he had been tricked by Mizuki, hence he was hoping he'd get to do something else. Naruto of course couldn't help but smile in amusement, since he knew why Kiba was groaning and was sort of sympathetic to his plight. He was also sort of looking forward to going to the dog pound, since he hadn't seen Kuramaru since he brought him back to the Inuzuka dog pound when he saved him, hence this mission was a good opportunity to visit him. As Naruto and Team 8 headed towards the Inuzuka clan compound, Naruto walked next to Hinata and started to talk to her, where the two of them caught up with one another about what had happened to both of them from when they last met. Inuzuka dog pound. Currently standing at the main entrance of the Inuzuka dog pound was the Inuzuka clan head Sum along with her parent Kuramaru, who were both waiting for their ordered help with the dogs today. Fortunately, Tsum and Kuramaru did not have to wait for very long, as she soon saw Naruto, Kurinai, and her team coming towards them. "Ah, good, you all right on time, although it seems you came with an extra person," spoke Tsum as she looked at Naruto and smiled. "Yes, Naruto here is on a joint mission with us. I hope that won't be a probable, Tsum-san?" asked Kurinai. "Nonsense, the more the merrier, As many hands make light work, spoke the Inuzuka clan head before she turned to Naruto again. It's good to see you again, pup.
Same here. Sum-san, is Kuromaro here?
Yep, he's here and I'm sure he'll be happy you see you, answered Sum, before she then turned to Kurinai and the rest of the team. Now then, I'm sure you all want to get started, so I won't hold you off any longer, spoke Sum, where she then looked at her son.
Kiba, since you still have your punishment chores, you can do them now.
When Kiba heard this, he of course groaned, as he was sick of cleaning up the kennels, as whenever he was finished he always ended up smelling like dog poop. Ignoring her son's groans, Sum turned to her son. Sensei Kurinai-san, you'll be helping my daughter Hana with the medical checkup on the dogs. Upon hearing this, the female Jonin sensei nodded her head, understanding what she was to do. Aburame-san will be doing an inventory of our supplies in the storage room and add in the supplies that we received yesterday's, spoke Sum when she turned to Shino, who just nodded when Sum told him what to do. And what would you like MMET to do, Sum-sama, asked the still shy Hinata, who was a bit nervous around Sum. At this, Sum just smiled. Well, you'll be working with the young Senju pup here, where the two of you'll be washing the pups, as they already had their checkup with Hana earlier this morning.
Sounds like fun, doesn't it, Hinata-chan?
Said Naruto with smile as he turned to the Hyuga heiress.
Hi, stuttered Hinata. Once they were all given their orders, Sum then led everyone, with the exception of Kiba, since he knew where to go, to where they be doing their appointed jobs. When Naruto and Hinata entered the room where they be washing the pups, they saw several large litters of puppies of many different kinds running around the room and barking loudly, playing with one another. Within seconds of entering the room, Naruto suddenly saw a brown blur appear in front of him, where he was knocked down by the blur and soon felt a wet tongue licking his face and tickling him. When the brown blur knocked Naruto down onto the ground, Hinata quickly became concerned about Naruto's safety, but her concerns almost just as quickly left when she heard Naruto laughing and saw a brown wolf-like pup on top of Naruto licking his face. Ha 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 ha, stop it, Kuromaro, ha 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 ha, it tickles, ha ha ha, I'm happy to see you too, boy, ha 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 ha, laughed Naruto, as the small half-wolf pup was on top of him licking his face.
After a few minutes, the young pup finally settled down and stopped licking Naruto's face, and got off him, and barked a few times, as if greeting him, where Naruto then patted the young pup on the head lightly.
Excuse me, Naruto-san, but do you know this puppy? Asked Hinata shyly.
Yeah, this is Kuromaro. A few weeks back he got lost from the dog pound, and was attacked by a group of kids, where I saved him and brought him back here.
The two of us then became quite friendly each other, isn't that right, Kuromaro?
Spoke Naruto, as he panted Kuromaro on the head again, and the little pup barked in agreement with Naruto. At hearing this, Hinata smiled, as it proved without a shadow of a doubt that Naruto was indeed a very kind person.
Kuromaro, I like to introduce you to my friend Hinata, spoke Naruto, as he introduced Hinata to the young pup. Kuromaro was of course unsure about Hinata, as the young pup was natural hesitate of getting close to people, either due to his wolf-like nature or because of what happened with the children that chased after him. But Naruto continued to encourage Kuromaro to go over to Hinata, stating that she was a friend. Eventually, though, the pup went over to Hinata, or when he was close enough, Hinata then knelt down to him. After which she then panted the puppy gentle on the head and scratched him behind the ear, much like she would do with Akamaru. Hello, Kuromaro, said Hinata as she scratched behind Kuromaru's ear, making the little puppy wag its tail, indicating that he liked what Hinata was doing. After introducing Hinata and Kuromaro, Naruto and Hinata then started to work and started to wash Kuromaro and the other puppies, which was difficult enough for Hinata and Naruto, as the puppies would often struggle a bit when they were in the water while Hinata and Naruto were washing them. The puppies would also even try and jump out of the large tub they were in, where some would succeed and run around the room a bit before Hinata or Naruto caught them. Throughout the entire event, both Hinata and Naruto were fairly wet, but they eventually got the puppies to calm down, where they could then finish washing them. But despite the fact that both Hinata and Naruto were fairly drenched from the event, both Hinata and Naruto enjoyed it and had fun washing the puppies. After a while, when they'd finished washing and drying over half the puppies, Kurinai entered the room,
where she asked Naruto if he could go help Shino in the storage room with the inventory and the loading of the new supplies, while she, Kurinai, helped Hinata with washing and drying the rest of the puppies. Naruto of course agreed, where he then headed to the storage room to help Shino. When Naruto entered the storage room, he saw that Shino was having difficulty with carrying a large box filled with dog food. Upon seeing this, Naruto quickly went over to Shino and grabbed the other end of the box. "Here, let me help you." Seeing Naruto, Shino nodded his head. "Thank you, Senju-san, your help is appreciated." "No problem," replied Naruto as he and Shino carried the large box to one of the lower shelves of the storage room. Once they put the box in its place, Shino then turned to Naruto. "If it's not too much trouble, Senju-san, would you be able to handle sorting the rest of the boxes and crates while I finish the inventory?" "Not a problem, and please call me Naruto." "Very well then, Naruto-san," replied Shino with a nod, and then walked to the other end of the storage room to finish the inventory. For the next few minutes Naruto and Shino worked in silence with one another as they worked together, but after a while Naruto couldn't stand the continued silence between him and Shino. After which Naruto tried to start a conversation between him and young Aburame heir. Unfortunately, making a conversation between him and Shino proved more difficult than he thought. Not that Shino ignored his attempts to make conversation, and did reply to Naruto when he spoke to him. The problem was that after answering a question or a comment from Naruto, Shino wouldn't try to continue on with the conversation, he simply continued to work in silence. Eventually though, Naruto was able to start a real conversation with Shino, by using his knowledge on nature, where although Naruto's knowledge of nature was more into plants and animals, and Shino's was into insects, it was still enough to start a healthy conversation, where Shino found Naruto to be an interesting person. It didn't take long for Naruto and Shino to finish sorting out the boxes and crates into their proper location, but just as Shino was placing a small box of medicine for the dogs on the top shelf, while Naruto was holding the bottom of the ladder for him, a wet Kurumara suddenly came running in with Hinata right behind him, crying out to him to stop. As Kurumara ran into the storage room, he slipped on the floor due to his first still being wet, where he then crashed into the shelf that Naruto and Shino were working on, causing it to shake, thereby causing one of the large crates that was on the top shelf right above Kurumara to fall down towards not only him, but also Hinata, who had just caught Kurumara. When Naruto saw the crate falling down towards both Kurumara and Hinata, he yelled out to both of them to move, but knew that they would not be able to in time. Reacting immediately, Naruto quickly channeled his chakra to his feet to increase his speed, where he then sped off towards Hinata and Kurumara with speed that shocked Shino, who saw what was happening from the top of the ladder. Within seconds Naruto crossed the distance between him, Hinata and Kurumara, where right before the crate crashed on top of them, Naruto pushed both Kurumara and Hinata out of the way and narrowly avoided being hit himself. After the crate crashed onto the floor, Naruto found himself on top of Hinata, hugging her tightly, with Kurumara squeezed between them. Due to Hinata holding onto Kurumara, when the crate fell and Naruto grabbing hold of her when he pushed her and Kurumara away from the falling crate. When Naruto looked at Hinata, he found that the young Hyuga heiress was blushing bright red, due to the fact that she had never been in such close contact with a boy the same age as herself. This was made even worse for her, since not only was Naruto pressed tightly against her chest, but Kurumara was also caught between the developing parts of her chest. Upon which he began wiggling in between them, hoping to squeeze out between Naruto and Hinata, making the situation all the more worse and embarrassing for the young Hyuga girl. And if Hinata thought things couldn't get even more embarrassing, they did when Kurinai, Kiba, Akamaru, Tsum, Kuramaru, Hana, and the three Himura brothers came running in after hearing the loud crash of the crate. When they entered the room, they were of course surprised to see Naruto on top, Hinata hugging her tightly. Well, I've to say, you certainly move fast, don't ya, pup? Since I've heard rumors that you were becoming quite popular with the young girls in the village," commented Tsum with amused smirk, but as amused as Tsum was before, the sight of Kurumara popping his head out between Hinata and Naruto at that moment and wriggling even more, trying to get out between the two genin, caused the female clan head to burst out laughing at the sight. Even Hana and Kurenai chuckled slightly at the sight, at how funny it was. The only one who wasn't laughing was Kiba, as from the look of things, Kiba's point of view that is, it looked like Naruto was trying to force himself on his teammate. Senju. What the hell are you doing to Hinata? Cried Kiba angrily. When Naruto heard some comment he naturally became embarrassed and turned red much like Hinata, although nowhere as near as red as she was. But after Kiba's angry accusation Naruto quickly let go of Hinata and jumped onto his feet, waving his hands in denial. Wait. It's not what it looks like, I swear, said Naruto, worried at what Kurenai and the others were thinking. Well then why don't you tell us exactly what happened? Asked Kurenai with an amused smirk, as she was certain there was a reasonable explanation, as she highly doubted Naruto would do anything inappropriate. Once Naruto had helped Hinata back onto her feet, who were still very red, and he had finished explaining what happened. Kiba was as always skeptical of Naruto's explanation, but thankfully Shino backed Naruto up as he had seen what had happened, hence Kiba had no choice but to believe Naruto. Once Naruto finished his explanation as to what happened, he turned to Hinata and asked if she was okay. Hinata of course stuttered out how she was fine and thanked Naruto saving her. Koromaru also thanked Naruto for saving him by jumping onto Naruto again and licking him. Once Naruto got Koromaru to settle down again, Naruto then apologized to Tsume as to what happened to the crate and for the stuff that was broken in it, but Tsume told him that it was alright and that she'd rather have what just happened now than have somebody getting hurt. Once the matter was then settled, Shino and Naruto cleaned up the mess, after which Naruto and the rest of the team finished off the rest of their duties, where Tsume thanked them and that they could leave. Well, good work all of you. Since the mission is now done you all have the rest of the day off, spoke Kurenai. Upon hearing this, the 4 genin all nodded their heads in understanding, and went their own separate ways, but before Naruto could walk very far away, he suddenly heard his name being called out by someone. When he turned up he saw a blushing Hinata slowly walk up to him. What's up, Hinata-chan? Asked Naruto, where he heard her mumble something, while at the same time pressing her index fingers in and out. Author's note, you know that thing Hinata does. But since she was mumbling Naruto couldn't quite hear what she was saying. I'm sorry Hinata-chan, but I can't hear you, what did you say? Asked Naruto. Naruto. IWW want to thank YUA again, as YUCC could V even H hurt when YYU saved MME, stuttered the still blushing, shy young girl. At this Naruto smiled. No problem Hinata-chan, since that's what friends are for, and I'm sure you would have done the same for me. At hearing this Hinata couldn't help but blush a deeper shade of red, as few people ever really complimented her in any way, where she thanked Naruto again, after which Naruto told her it was not a problem, and then shunshined, body flickered, away. Currently standing not far away from where Naruto and Hinata were just talking, was the team sensei Kurenai, who could not help but overhear Hinata thanking Naruto again. As she listened to the 2 genin talk, Kurenai also noticed how Hinata was blushing an even darker shade of red when Naruto complimented her, and was mumbling a lot more, not to mention that every time Hinata looked at Naruto she blushed a little more. When she saw this Kurenai couldn't help but smile, as it didn't take a genius to figure out that the young girl was developing a crush on Naruto, especially considering how Naruto put himself in harm's way when he saved her and the young puppy. You certainly live up to your reputation, Naruto-san, thought Kurenai, as she remembered hearing from Kushina several days ago that Naruto had developed a little habit of saving princesses and gaining their attraction. Since she had heard from Kushina that Naruto helped protect and save the daughter of the former high priestess of Oni no Kuni, Demon Country, from a group of enemy shinobis. She also heard from Kushina that Naruto even saved the fire daimyo's granddaughter from a wild bear. Hence Naruto lived up to his reputation by saving Hinata, as she was the heiress of the Hyuga clan and was basically a princess of the clan, due to being the daughter of the clan head Hyuga Hayashi. When Naruto left, Kurenai then walked up to Hinata and smiled to her, pretending to know nothing. Kurenai asked Hinata if she would like her to walk her, Hinata, home, which Hinata too agreed. As they walked to the Hyuga compound, Kurenai started a conversation with Hinata. Naruto is quite an interesting young man. Hi Naruto-kun is a very kind person, replied Hinata with a slight blush, which was the final confirmation Kurinai needed, when she heard Hinata's suffix and saw the blush at the mention of him, which of course made Kurinai smile again. After which the two silently walked together to the Hyuga compound. Next day at Training Ground 5. Currently standing in the middle of Training Ground 5, smoking a cigarette was the leader of Team 10, Sararobi Asuma, son of the Sandaime Hokage. Asuma was currently waiting for the arrival of his team, along with a new addition Senju Naruto, who was doing joint training with them today. As Asuma waited for the 4 genin to arrive, he soon sensed a presence coming up from behind him from the tree line. Asuma could tell that the person had some skill, as the person hid their presence well and made sure not to make any sound and keep hidden. But even still, Asuma wasn't a jonin of Konohagakure for nothing and could sense the person coming, thanks to many years of being a shinobi. You might as well stop hiding, I know you're there, spoke Asuma as he waited for the person to show himself. At hearing this, the person knew the jig was up and jumped out of the tree he was hiding in, and appeared in front of Asuma, revealing the person to be none other than Naruto. I guess I should have figured you would have sensed me coming, stated Naruto, as he had wanted to see how good his stealth skills were, and who better to test them against than a jonin, who also happened to be a former member of the Shugenin Jinishi, 12 guardian ninjas. I admit you're pretty good, but you're still a long way off before you're able to sneak up on a jonin-level shinobi without them sensing you, replied Asuma, or Naruto just nodded. So where are the others? Asked Naruto. They should be here soon, but before they arrive I thought I should tell you what I have planned to do today, said Asuma. Today I'm basically going to have a mock battle, where you will face against my team by yourself. Why? Would you want that, Asuma-sensei? Wouldn't it be better that I face off against them one at a time, or have us split up in pairs? Asked Naruto. Normally that would be true, but you see I've been having a little trouble with getting my team to work together, as Shikamaru lacks any real motivation to do much, despite the fact that he has the ability to be an excellent shinobi. Choji also doesn't have any real motivation either and easily loses confidence in himself, where he would much prefer gorging himself than train or fight, said Asuma, where Naruto nodded in understanding, after which Asuma continued on. Ino is also another problem, as she has yet to come to realize what the life of a shinobi really is, as she focuses more on how she looks than she does when it comes to training. She avoids eating much and is constantly on some kind of diet, and frets over her clothes and hair, worrying that they get dirty, which of course is linked to Ino's biggest problem. Stated Asuma. She a fangirl, stated Naruto bluntly before Asuma could finish, who just nodded. Yeah, hence why I'm hoping that if I do fight against them you can get them to work together, or at least see the value of working together as a team, spoke Asuma. Plus I'm hoping that if Ino is forced to fight you, she might become a little more serious in her training instead of fretting over her looks, after fighting her new crush, continued Asuma with a smirk. Since when he mentioned this, the young blonde groaned loudly and slapped his forehead with annoyance, as Asuma had confirmed what he had already suspected. Ino had become his newest fangirl. After a minute or two Naruto soon got over the annoyance of having another fangirl, and then spoke to Asuma. Well, I've no problem in that, but I'll have to hold back on them a lot, as I can't use most of my abilities. Asuma of course nodded at this, as he knew that his father had ordered Naruto keep his abilities hidden for as long as possible, or at least until the Chunin exam. This was because the Hokage feared that if people knew what Naruto could do, then word might leak out to the other shinobi villages, who would then most likely send assassins after Naruto, to prevent him becoming a threat to them in the future. That's not a problem, as I wouldn't want you to go all out on them to begin with. All I want you to do is basically get them to work together, answered Asuma, where Naruto just nodded. Now before they arrive, there's something else I would like to ask you? Sure, what is it, Asuma-sensei? Asked Naruto. Well, I heard from Kakashi about a wind technique that you created, and I was wondering if you could show it to me. Asked Asuma, as he was interested in seeing the technique with his own eyes. Sure, said Naruto, as he liked to show off a little every now and again, since for most of his life he had to keep hidden due to fear of his parents' enemies coming after him. Plus he sort of liked getting attention for something he did, and not because of whose son or descendant he was. Naruto then drew out his katana from his back and then started to channel his wind chakra to the tip of his blade and swung it in a horizontal slash, while crying out Surashifu, wind slash. Where a crescent-shaped blade of wind erupted from the katana blade tip. The blade of wind flew at a nearby tree with frightening speed, where the blade of wind sliced through the tree and continued onto another tree behind the first, cutting right through it as well. After which the crescent blade of wind dissipated and the top halves of the two trees fell to the ground at roughly the same time together. When Asuma saw the technique he could not help but gap at it, sure he knew all about it, as Kakashi and told him about it. But seeing it with his own eyes, instead of hearing about it second hand was another story. After getting over his surprise, Asuma then turned to Naruto. Pretty impressive, kid, how did you come up with it? Oh well, I created it by accident, when I was training and using Hien no Jutsu, flying swallow technique. Back when I was practicing and using it, after Ero-Sennin taught me how to do it, I accidentally added too much chakra, and lost focus of the wind chakra around my katana when I was swinging it. I then lost control of it, where I created a rough wind-like blade and did some damage to a nearby boulder. When I saw what I did, I came up with the idea of Surashifu, whereby channeling a concentrated amount of wind chakra into the tip of my blade, and firing it with exact timing in the shape of a crescent moon as I swing my sword, spoke Naruto. After hearing this, Asuma couldn't help but shake his head in amusement and puff out a puff of smoke from his mouth, as he took his cigarette out. Even after hearing about this and seeing the technique with his own eyes, he still found it little hard to believe that Naruto could create something so simple, yet so brilliant and deadly. But then reminded himself that Naruto was the son of Tsunade, the slug princess of the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary three ninjas, and the Yondaime Hokage, better known as Konoha no Kiroi Senko, Yellow Flash of the Leaf. The two strongest shinobis of their time, hence the kid had the potential to be great with his pedigree alone. I'm also guessing it's a lot harder to do than it sounds? Asked Asuma, where Naruto nodded. Yeah, it is, as it took me a while to master the technique before I finally got the hang of it, and even then I had to master the Hien no Jutsu first, stated Naruto, where Asuma nodded in understanding. Do you think it'd be possible for you to teach me it? Asked Asuma, as he could see a lot possibilities for that technique, as would a highly useful one to know. Sure, I'd be happy to, said Naruto with a smile, and with some pride, as it wasn't every day that a famed and highly skilled and veteran Jonin shinobi would ask a genin to teach him something. At hearing this, Asuma nodded and thanked Naruto, but before they could continue their conversation they noticed that Shikamaru and the other members of Team 10 were heading towards them. When Shikamaru and the others reached Asuma, they quickly noticed Naruto, which of course surprised the three genin. Hey Asuma-sensei, why is Senju Naruto here? Asked Shikamaru in a bored-like tone, not caring all that much. Well, due to special circumstances, Naruto here was removed from Team 7, and made an apprentice of two other shinobis. The Hokage also decided that since Naruto is not on any genin team now, he will work together with other teams like ours and do missions and training with us from time to time, so that he can learn to work with a team, answered Asuma. At hearing this, the members of Team 10 had different reactions to this new development. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow, but then just shrugged his shoulders and sighed, what a drag, knowing Asuma-sensei he'd probably work us twice as hard as normal now. Hopefully though, Senju here would be a troublesome person, thought Shikamaru. Choji of course didn't mind much and just kept eating the crisps that he was munching on. Ino on the other hand was ecstatic at hearing that Naruto was going to be on her team. Yes. Naruto-kun is going to be on my team now. Take that, Sakura, you're not the only one that has her man on her team now, thought Ino. I guess that's okay, said Shikamaru, but what happened over there? Indicating at the two falling trees. Oh well, I was just doing a bit training, while I was waiting for all of you, and I got a bit carried away, lied Asuma, not wanting to put Naruto in the spotlight. Shikamaru of course narrowed his eyes as with suspicion at this, as he found it difficult to accept his sensei excuse, but before he could ask further on the matter Asuma spoke again. Now then, since that matter is settled, I think we should have a little introduction with each other. What exactly would you like us to say to one another, sensei? Asked Ino. How about we tell each other our names, what we like, what we dislike, our dreams for the future, and our hobbies, spoke Naruto, taking a page out of Kakashi's book. At this Asuma nodded, seeing as the best way for Naruto to get to know the rest of the team. That's fine, I start things off. My name is Sarutobi Asuma, my likes are soda, sausages, Tororo and smoking my cigarettes. My dislikes are people who make a fuss over my smoking, people who are always in a hurry, and those who betray their oaths. My hobbies are playing shogi, and my dream for the future is that I can one day have a family of my own. Once Asuma finished, Naruto decided to go next and help break the ice. My name is Senju Naruto. My likes include ramen, my Kaa-chan, Shizun Wani-chan, our pet pig Tonton, Ero-senin, playing pranks, my friends, training and reading. I dislike bullies, traitors, the 3 minutes that take to cook my ramen, and perverts. My hobbies are training, reading and gardening and making perverts suffer, and my dreams for the future are to be a great medic nin like my Kaa-chan, to restore my clan and to be the greatest Hokage. That way, people will stop always comparing me to the rest of my family and acknowledge me as myself, and not someone related to great ninjas, said Naruto. At hearing this, Asuma nodded, Shikamaru just shrugged, Choji just kept munching on his crisps, while Ino had a dreamy look on her face. He's perfect, cried Ino happily inside her mind. He's not some pervert like some guys, he's strong, polite, considerate, kind, likes gardening, and he makes perverts suffer. As Ino was thinking this, she was also dreaming of what it would be like to be the wife of the next future Hokage. Once Naruto had finished his introduction, Asuma then motioned Shikamaru go next, who muttered troublesome before he spoke. My name is Nara Shikamaru, my likes are watching the clouds drift by, mackerel and kelp, my dislikes are boiled eggs, troublesome people, especially loud troublesome women, ow, stated Shikamaru, before he cried out in pain as annoyed Ino smacked him on the back of the head for his comment. Troublesome, muttered Shikamaru as he rubbed his head, before he continued, my hobbies are playing shogi and taking long naps, and my dream, it too troublesome to talk about. Upon hearing Shikamaru's response, Naruto didn't know what to think, as from the way Shikamaru looked and acted, it seemed that he didn't really belong in the shinobi world. But he quickly put those thoughts aside, as his mother had told him that in the shinobi world, appearance counts for very little. Also, he had heard of Shikamaru's clan form his mother, where she had told him that despite their lazy-like appearance or laid-back attitude, they were skilled shinobis and expert and skilled tacticians, making them dangerous people to have as enemies. After Shikamaru had finished his introduction, Asuma then had Choji go next. My name is Akimichi Choji, my like are my friends, eating at Korean barbecue and eating junk food. The things I dislike are stuff I can't eat and people who hurt my friends and who call me fat or any stuff like that. As for my hobbies, well, I like buying and eating food and hanging out with Shikamaru. As for dreams, well, I like to one day run and own my own all-you-can-eat restaurant. With Choji introduction done, Asuma turned to Ino, who was the only one left to do their introduction. My name is Yamanaka Ino, my likes are stylish clothes, cherry tomatoes and pudding in. Looks at Naruto and giggles, making Naruto silently groan in annoyance. My dislikes are sashimi and disgusting stuff that smells. My hobbies are shopping and my dream. Looks at Naruto again and giggles, making Naruto silently groan again in annoyance, as he had a guess what Ino's dream was. Once all the introductions were done, Asuma then spoke up. Now that everyone gotten to know each other better, we are going to have a little sparring match. Oh man, but I just ate, said Choji, after he finished eating his crisps. You always just ate, you moron, said annoyed Ino, before she turned to her sensei. What kind of sparring match are we going to have, sensei? Asked Ino, where she silently fantasied, her and Naruto fighting side by side, and him protecting her from harm, like in the romance novels she read sometimes. The match will be between you three against Naruto, replied Asuma. But Asuma-sensei, that's unfair to Naruto-kun, stated Ino. Wouldn't it be better if one of us was paired with him? Where Ino was ready to volunteer herself to join Naruto. No, you three against Naruto will do fine, as Naruto can more than handle himself in a fight, replied Asuma, where the three other genin looked unsure, but did what their sensei told them. Still unsure about the way the match was laid out,
Team 10 quickly went into their designated position at the other end of the training field. As they walked over to their position, Shikamaru suddenly spoke up. Hey guys, listen, I think I know why Asuma-sensei is having us all go against Naruto. Why's that, Shika? Asked Choji. Asuma-sensei wants us to work together against Naruto, in the hope of improving our teamwork skills, spoke Shikamaru. Are you sure about that, Shika? Because I don't think it would be much of a match with 3 of us against him, said Choji. No way. Naruto-kun is way stronger than you think, Choji, said Ino. As troublesome as it is, I agree with Ino on this one, since other than what he did in the Genin exams, what do we really know of Naruto's skill? At this, Choji had no real answer to Shikamaru's question, as to be perfectly honest, with the expectation of his introduction, and what he did in the graduation exam, they didn't really know all that much about Naruto, as he was a total mystery to them. Ino, you and Sakura are back to being friends again, right? Asked Shikamaru, where Ino just nodded, stating that they were. Then did Sakura tell you anything about what he could do? Since they were both on the same team together during their team test, before Naruto was transferred from the team, asked Shikamaru. No, she didn't, as she was forbidden from telling anyone what Naruto-kun could do until it officially declared, by order of the Hokage. If she or Sasuke told anyone, they would have their ninja licenses revoked, their chakra sealed and charged with endangering village security, and spend 20 years in a maximum security cell. I know that was true since my dad told me there was a council meeting about Naruto-kun, but he wouldn't tell me what it was about, stated Ino, where Shikamaru and Choji nodded as they had heard similar things from their own fathers. The only thing she could tell me was that Naruto-kun was amazingly stronger than Sasuke, finished Ino, or caused Shikamaru to frown further and caused Choji to worry. As they both knew that out of all the members in their old class, Sasuke was the strongest, and if Naruto was stronger than Sasuke, then that meant that they were in serious trouble. The only chance we now have in beating Naruto is if we work together, okay? Stated the young Nara heir, where both Ino and Choji nodded. Once the 4 genins were in opposite ends of one another and Asuma was standing in between them, he raised his arm up into the air and shouted out, begin. As soon as Asuma did this, Choji quickly did his Nikuden Sensha, human bullet tank, and charged straight at Naruto at full speed. Normally when faced with a situation like this, Naruto would have used his superhuman strength, or use one of his Doton Jutsus, or his Surashifu to stop his opponent. But since this was basically a mock battle, he couldn't go all out, especially since he was ordered by his grandfather the Hokage, 1, to not reveal his true abilities, unless he absolutely needed to. Hence Naruto knew he had to make do by using limited abilities. Reacting quickly, Naruto quickly jumped out of the way of the oncoming Choji, but when he jumped out of Choji's path, he came under assault by a small hail of kunai and shurikens from Ino. Seeing them, Naruto immediately took out his katana and skillfully deflected the kunais and shurikens, but as he did, he suddenly realized that the kunais and shurikens from Ino were just a distraction. For out of the corner of his eyes, Naruto saw a long stretching shadow moving towards from his left. Upon seeing the stretching shadow, Naruto knew it was Shikamaru's, where he quickly jumped backwards, high into the air. When Shikamaru saw this, he quickly stretched his shadow forward, hoping to get Naruto when he landed. But when Naruto landed back onto the ground, he realized that Naruto was too far away to his shadow to reach him, upon which he called his shadow back. When Naruto saw this, he began to wonder why Shikamaru did not have his shadow go after him, but after thinking it over for a minute, he quickly realized that there was a limit to how far Shikamaru could stretch his shadow. This was of course something Naruto knew he could use in this fight, but he would have to figure out how far exactly Shikamaru could stretch his shadow. Knowing that Shikamaru was the most dangerous of the 3, Naruto knew he would have to take him out quickly, where with Shikamaru down, Ino and Choji would then quickly follow. Taking out several shurikens, Naruto then threw them at Shikamaru, who quickly moved out of the way to dodge them. But what he didn't know was that Naruto used Kage Shuriken no Jutsu, Shadow Shuriken technique, and threw twice as many shurikens than he appeared to, where they hid within the shadow of the first wave of shurikens.
So when Shikamaru moved out of the way of the first wave of shurikens, he was hit by the hidden wave. Fortunately though, despite being caught unguarded with Naruto's little trick, Shikamaru was still able to guard himself, where the most he got was a few scratches on his arms. With Shikamaru temporarily distracted, Naruto quickly charged straight at Shikamaru with his katana, but as he headed for Shikamaru, he had to deflect several shurikens thrown by Ino with his katana, who tried to stop him, but failed in doing so. Seeing that her attack failed to stop, Ino quickly jumped in front of Shikamaru with a kunai out forward to try and block Naruto's attack. When Naruto saw Ino jump in front of Shikamaru, he could tell that she wouldn't be able to stop him, as he could clearly see the nervousness and hesitation in her, by the way she took her defensive stance. Not wanting to really hurt the young Yamanaka heiress, nor wanting to have to deal with her and give Shikamaru a chance to capture him in his Kageme no Jutsu, Shadow Imitation Technique. Naruto quickly disappeared in a blur right before Shikamaru's and Ino's eyes and reappeared right behind Shikamaru with his sword raised, where all Ino and Shikamaru could think was fast. When Naruto reappeared behind Shikamaru, he quickly spun his katana around so that the back of the blade was forward, where when he hit the young Nara, he would be just knocked out. But before Naruto could swing his katana fully and knock Shikamaru out, he suddenly heard a loud rumbling sound, where when he turned around he saw Choji in his human meat tank form rolling towards him and shouting out, "Oh no you don't." Seeing this, Naruto quickly jumped away from Shikamaru and into the air to avoid Choji's attack. After which he then quickly threw several kunais at the ground around Choji, embedding them deeply into the ground. Thinking Naruto was trying to hit him with kunai, Choji tried to move out of the way, but when he tried, he found he couldn't move. "What's wrong with Choji, why doesn't he move?" asked Ino. "He can't look more closely," stated Shikamaru, as he saw with his keen eyes what had happened to his best friend. When Ino narrowed her eyes to look more closely, she noticed the thin steel wire wrapped around Choji, keeping him from moving. "Shinobi wire," stated Ino with surprise, where Shikamaru just nodded. Yeah, Naruto purposely missed Choji with his kunais, so that he could trap Choji in the shinobi wire, which was wrapped around the kunais. Where when Choji saw the kunais thrown at him, he would try and move away, thereby fully tangling himself in the shinobi wire. Also, the more Choji moves, the tighter the wire will get, keeping him from moving altogether, stated Shikamaru, where he had to silently complimented Naruto, as it was good move. When Naruto landed back on the ground, he was quickly put on the defensive by Shikamaru, who had used his Kageme no Jutsu to stretch his shadow towards Naruto. Seeing this, Naruto began to jump backwards to keep ahead of Shikamaru's shadow, while at the same time, he was also trying to see how far Shikamaru could stretch his shadow, so that he could have an estimate of his safe and danger zone with Shikamaru. After jumping back a couple of meters away from Shikamaru, Naruto then found the limit to the stretching of Shikamaru's shadow. But after finding out the limits of Shikamaru's technique, Naruto then saw Choji free himself from the shinobi wire by deactivating his Nikuden-sensha and returning to his original form. After seeing this, Naruto then decided it would be best to make a tactical retreat, so that he could plan out his next move against Shikamaru and the others, where he quickly jumped into the tree line to hide. After Naruto went into the tree line, Shikamaru and the others decided not to go after Naruto for fear of being ambushed by him. They then quickly took up a defensive stance formation, where they had their backs to one another and could see any kind of attack that Naruto would make from any given angle. As they waited, Shikamaru began to plan out what to do and figure out what Naruto would do next. After a few minutes of waiting, they soon came under attack from Naruto, who appeared in the air above them and dropped down several kunai and shurikens down on them, forcing them to break apart. "Shit! He's trying to break us apart and take us out one at a time," thought Shikamaru, as he avoided the kunai and shurikens from above. After avoiding the failing projections, Shikamaru started to look around for Naruto and where he would appear next. As he looked around, he saw Naruto suddenly appear behind Ino and was about to knock her out. "Ino, watch out!" cried Shikamaru to his female team members. After hearing Shikamaru cry, Ino quickly tried to spin around to face Naruto with her kunai, but when she tried, Naruto caught her arm, which held her kunai, as she was in mid-spin, stopping her from fully facing Naruto. "Sorry Ino-chan, but this is where it ends for you," spoke Naruto, as he was about to deliver a chop to the back of her neck to knock her out. But before he could do this, Shikamaru threw a kunai at Naruto, forcing him to jump away from Ino, where Choji then steam-rolled his way towards Naruto from his left-hand side in his Nikuden Sensha form. Knowing he didn't have much time, Naruto quickly took out a kunai with an low-medium level exploding note tied to it and threw it at the ground a few feet from him. When Choji rolled across the kunai, it exploded and blasted him up into the air and sent him crashing into several trees. Fortunately, though, due to being in his human bullet form and the fact that the exploding note was a medium level one, no real harm was done to Choji. After dealing with Choji, Naruto suddenly saw a shadow tendril heading for him. Upon seeing them, Naruto immediately started jumping backwards to avoid Shikamaru's shadow, knowing there was a limit to how far he could go. When he got to the point where he knew Shikamaru's shadow could no longer reach him, he stopped, knowing he was safe, and as he suspected, Shikamaru's shadow stopped a foot away from him. "Nice try, Shikamaru, but I know you can't reach me from here with your shadow, as this is as far as it can go," said Naruto with a smile, which quickly faded when he saw Shikamaru smirk. "I wouldn't be so sure of that, Naruto," replied Shikamaru, where the next thing Naruto knew he found himself frozen. What?" cried Naruto in surprise as he found that he couldn't move. Deciding to let Naruto in at what happened, Shikamaru turned his head around, making Naruto do the same, and allowing him to see how Shikamaru caught him. When Naruto turned around, he saw a shadow tendril come up from the shadow of a nearby tree and merging with his shadow. After which, when Naruto turned back to face Shikamaru, where he saw a second shadow tendril coming from Shikamaru's, merging with another tree's shadow. After seeing this, Naruto realized how Shikamaru caught him. He had realized that Shikamaru had tricked him by using the first shadow tendril to keep him, Naruto, distracted and make him go where Shikamaru wanted him to go. While at the same time, Shikamaru sent a second shadow tendril into the shadow of one of the nearby trees, thereby using it as a sort or rely with the other shadows of the trees, allowing him to extend the reach of his shadow farther than it normally could, as well as use it to sneak up on Naruto from behind, when he least expected it. When he realized this, Naruto had to hand it to Shikamaru, as he had played him, Naruto, perfectly and caught him. "I'm afraid this is checkmate," Naruto stated Shikamaru, believing he had it won, after which he turned to his female teammate. "Ino, I need you to take control of Naruto's body, so that I can realize him from my Kage main no jutsu, and we can tie him up." "Right," replied Ino with a nod, where she then a few quick hand seals, "Sorry Naruto-kun. Shintenshin no jutsu, mind-body switch technique." After doing the technique, Ino's body slumped over and Ino's voice suddenly spoke from Naruto's. "Okay Shikamaru, I'm in control, UCA," spoke Ino, but before she could finish speaking, Naruto puffed away in a puff of smoke, after which Ino was sent flying back into her body, where she fell onto her back. "What the hell just happened?" cried a surprised Ino, which quickly turned to panic when she no longer saw Naruto. Did Naruto-kun suddenly commit suicide and blow himself up? "Calm down Ino, you're being troublesome again. Naruto didn't blow himself up, as that wasn't the real Naruto, it was some sort of clone," replied Shikamaru with a frown. "But how?" "He felt real," asked Ino, as she knew that the Naruto, whose body she entered, was real and no illusion. "TCH. I don't know," replied the annoyed Shikamaru, as things were just getting more complicated. "What a drag. I knew this Senju guy would troublesome, but I didn't think he'd be this troublesome. If I knew what he could do, I could make up a proper plan to get him, but since I don't, our chances of beating him are very low, man. I don't even know why I even have to put up with stuff like this. I much prefer taking a quiet nap and watching the clouds go by," thought annoyed Shikamaru. As Shikamaru was thinking over what to do next, he suddenly heard Ino shout out to him, where when he turned he saw 3 kunai flying towards him at high speed from some bushes from the tree line. After seeing them, Shikamaru quickly tried to move out of the way, but couldn't avoid them fully, where he was cut by them in both arms and his right leg, causing him to fall to the ground. When he hit the ground, Shikamaru then saw the real Naruto appear out of the bush from where the kunais came from. Upon seeing Naruto, Shikamaru immediately realized that Naruto had sent his clone in to attack them, so distract them and keep them busy, so that he could wait for an opening to appear and attack them. Shit. I walked right into this 1-inch, thought Shikamaru angrily. Man, that was close. If I had gone myself, instead of sending a clone, there's no doubt that Shikamaru would have caught me. But still, I better end this now and not give him any more chances, as he too dangerous to ignore, thought Naruto. Where he redrew his katana from his back and prepared to take care of Shikamaru and Ino. Unfortunately, before Naruto could finish of Ino and Shikamaru, he suddenly heard a familiar rumbling sound, where the next thing he knew, Choji came bursting from the tree line in his Nikuden Sensha form. After which he made a sharp turn and sped straight for Naruto, forcing Naruto to move away from Shikamaru and Ino, where Choji then followed after him. Not wanting to waste the opportunity that Choji gave him, the young Nara quickly formed the necessary seals needed to do his Kage main no jutsu, where he formed a shadow tendril and connected with the shadows of the trees, just as he did when he faced against the Naruto clone. He then used the shadows of the trees as rely points for his own shadow to extend its lengths, where he then created several small tendrils, and had them come up from behind Naruto and surround him from multiple angles, where they all converged on him. At the same time, as he was avoiding Choji, Naruto saw out of the corner of his eyes the different shadow tendrils surrounding him and converging in on him on multipliable sides, with Choji coming at him head-on. Shit! Muttered Naruto when he saw this, as he knew he was trapped. The next thing Ino and Shikamaru saw was Naruto being caught in Shikamaru's Kage main no jutsu, freezing him in place and Choji crushing him under his attack. Naruto Kun! Cried Ino as she saw her new crush being steamrolled by her teammate. But as Ino was about to break into tears over the loss of her new love, Shikamaru suddenly spoke up. Calm down, Ino, and stop being so loud, spoke Shikamaru with a slight annoyed tone, where he muttered, troublesome woman. But Naruto-kun is. Cried Ino, but was interrupted by Shikamaru before he could finish. Isn't dead, look, spoke Shikamaru, as he indicated towards the believed to be crushed Naruto, where when Ino looked she saw a crushed wooden log, showing that Naruto had used a Kawarimi no Jutsu, body replacement technique, at the last second, allowing him to avoid being captured in Shikamaru's Kage main no Jutsu, and before Choji could flatten him with his Nikuden Sensha. At seeing this, Ino sighed with relief at Naruto not being dead, while Shikamaru just frowned, as he knew that the longer this battle went on, the worse things would get from him. Since he knew that they needed to capture Naruto now and take him out, as they knew too little about his abilities to beat him in a drawn-out battle. Soon enough Choji joined up with the rest of his team, where Shikamaru began to plan out their next move. But just as soon as they regrouped, 8 Narutos appeared out of the tree line and charged straight at them, half of them carrying kunais and the other half holding katanas. Crap! How did he make so many clones? Cried Choji in surprise, where Shikamaru just narrowed his eyes. Once Naruto and his clones made their appearance, they quickly charged at the members of Team 10 and attacked them, where they forced them to break apart from one another. Despite the fact they were forced away from one another, the members of Team 10 were able to hold their own against the clones, where Choji used his Nikuden Sensha to flatten 3 separate clones, causing them to puff away. Shikamaru also had some success with them, where he caught 4 more of them with his Kage main no Jutsu, and got them to destroy each other. This of course left the last Naruto, who was fighting Ino, meaning he had to be the real Naruto, where Choji and Shikamaru were about to go over to help their female teammate and surround Naruto. But just when things seemed to be going well for the members of Team 10, Naruto took out a handful of smoke bombs and threw them onto the ground, creating a large cloud of smoke that covered the training area. Cough, cough, damn it, cough. I need to get out of here fast, cough, cough, said Shikamaru, as he made his way out of the smoke-filled area. At the same time, standing outside the smoke-filled area, on a thick tree branch of a tree, was the sensei of Team 10 Sarutobi Asuma, who had been watching the battle. Not bad, Naruto, using the clones to separate Shikamaru and the others, and then using the smoke as a screen to keep them apart and take them out one at a time. But still it'll take more than this to defeat Shikamaru, as he won't fall for such obvious tactics, thought the son of the Hokage. Once Shikamaru made his way out of the smoke-filled area, he immediately started to look for the members of the rest of his team, since it was obvious to him that the smoke screen was to help further separate them from one another. Hence he had to hurry and find the rest of his teammates. Fortunately, it didn't take him long for him to find Ino, who had emerged from the smoke coughing heavily. "Ino, are you okay?" asked Shikamaru as he went up to the blonde-haired girl. "Cough, cough, yeah, I'm fine, but's where Choji?" asked Ino. "I don't know, but he can't be far. We have to hurry, as Naruto's plan is to separate us and break us apart, so that it would be easier for him to beat us," replied Shikamaru, where Ino just nodded in understanding. Luckily though, Shikamaru and Ino didn't have to look far, as Choji quickly came running towards them, panting slightly. "Choji, you okay?" asked Shikamaru. "Yeah, I'm fine, just a little tired," replied Choji. "Do you want something to eat?" "As I've some chocolate in my pouch." "Nah, I'm not hungry, thanks though." At this Shikamaru just nodded, where he turned and looked at Ino's dress where he saw something. "Hey Ino, you've some dirt on your dress." "Huh?" said Ino as she looked at the spot Shikamaru indicated. "Oh yeah. It must have happened when I was stumbling through the smoke. It's nothing. Nothing, I'll clean it later." At Shikamaru just nodded again, where he then said that they should go and find Naruto. But after only walking a few feet, Shikamaru suddenly took out a kunai with his left hand and spun around, where he pointed it at Choji's neck. "Shikamaru, what are you doing?" cried Choji in surprise and confusion. "Can the act? I know you're not," Choji stated Shikamaru with usual seriousness. "What are you talking about? Of course I'm," stated Choji, but was interrupted by Shikamaru. "I know you're not the real Choji, because I know Choji better than anyone, and I know that Choji would never pass up on free food," spoke Shikamaru. But as he said this, he found a kunai pointed at his head by Ino. "Very impressive, Shikamaru, but even still you lost," replied Ino, who suddenly revealed to be Naruto. "TSK, I don't think so," replied the Nara heir, where Naruto suddenly found that he couldn't move, where when Naruto looked down, he saw that Shikamaru had caught him in his Kage main no jutsu. Kage main no jutsu? "But when?" said Naruto with clear surprise. "Since when I met you, back when you were disguised as Ino and came out of the smoke, before you saw me." "But how did you know that I wasn't the real Ino?" "I didn't, at least not until I asked you about the dirt on your dress, where you said it was nothing." Ino would never say that if she saw dirt on her dress, as she would yell and complain about something like for the rest of the day. At hearing that, Naruto could only shake his head, and would have smacked himself for getting that, as Asuma had mentioned Ino being like that earlier. "Pretty good, but still, how did you know that I disguised myself as your teammates?" "Your plan was good but fairly obvious, where you had your clones attack us and then separate us from one another, where you then created that smoke screen cover the entire field. If your goal had been really to separate us from one another and take us out one by one, you could have done so without the large smoke screen. While Choji and I were dealing with your clones, you could have taken out Ino and fled. But instead you waited till we had destroyed your clones and before we could gang up on you. You then used the smoke screen to quickly take out Choji and Ino, where you used a henge to turn into Ino, and you created a clone to turn into Choji, which would increase your chances in taking me out. Since you calculated that even if I was suspicious of your plan, I wouldn't suspect that you had taken out both my teammate, allowing you to take me by surprise." Upon hearing this, Naruto could only smirk, as his mother was indeed right about the Naras being dangerous enemies to have and being skilled tacticians, given how Shikamaru had figured out his plan. "Well, you sure left me feeling like a dope, but even still, Shikamaru, this doesn't change the fact that I've won, as you can't stab my clone without having me stabbing you at the same time, thanks to your Kage main no jutsu making me follow your moves. Hence my clone can move out of the way and attack you," stated a confident Naruto, but immediately frowned when he saw Shikamaru smirk again. "I wouldn't be so sure of that," answered Shikamaru, where Naruto suddenly found his right hand lowering.
But how?
You forget the kunai that's pointing at your clone's neck is in my left hand, while your kunai that's pointed at my head is in your right. During our battle I noticed that you mainly hold your katana, kunais in your right hand, and mainly throw your shurikens and kunais with your right hand as well. Meaning that you're right-handed, which was why I held my kunai in my left, as I knew I could most likely end up in a situation like this, and you would most like hold your kunai or katana in your right hand like the other times. That's why this time I had you for certain, and this is indeed checkmate, stated Shikamaru. After hearing this, Naruto could only smile, as he really was impressed with how brilliant Shikamaru really was.
Humph, pretty observant of you, you're definitely a sharp one.
Asuma-sensei was right about you, Shikamaru, as you really do have the ability to be a great shinobi. At this Shikamaru just nodded. So do you surrender, or do yo? Spoke Shikamaru, but stopped in mid-sentence as he sudden felt weak, where he could no longer focus his chakra to hold Naruto, and he could no longer keep holding his kunai in his hand. As Shikamaru was wondering what was going on with him, he suddenly realized what happened.
Poison, he muttered out loud.
Like I said, you're a sharp one, Shikamaru. As you're correct, said Naruto, as he stood over Shikamaru, who was now on his knees, due to being so weak. With Shikamaru now disabled, Naruto then deactivated his clone, where when he did, Shikamaru suddenly spoke again.
But when did you poison me?
It couldn't be from the smoke, as you would have been poisoned as well, and even if you were immune to it, you wouldn't have had to use that ruse with disguising yourself and your clone as Ino and Choji.
As you could have waited till we all collapsed from the poison, so when did you poison me? Asked Shikamaru.
Back when I had cut you with my kunais, after you and Ino took out my first clone, as I coated my kunais with the poison, where it entered your bloodstream when the kunais cut you and spread throughout your body. The poison that I used was a slow-acting one, where it doesn't take effect until it spreads through your entire body, through your bloodstream, where it messes up your chakra control and weakens your body. Normally it takes a few hours to stream through your body, since it's slow to spread, but since we've been fighting for so long, the adrenaline from fighting speeds up the process greatly, explained Naruto. You may have figured out my plan, Shikamaru, and caught me, but it's always best to have a hidden ace in the hole, which is why I won this fight. As I knew it would most likely come down between the two of us, stated Naruto with a smirk. At this Shikamaru could only sigh and mutter troublesome, but even still he smiled a little, as he held no hard feelings to Naruto, as he had outwitted him fair and square. With Shikamaru now disabled, Naruto knew the fight was over, as he had already dealt with Choji and Ino. But before Naruto could go looking for Asuma and tell him the battle was over, he and Shikamaru suddenly heard someone clapping nearby.
When they looked around they saw Asuma standing on a thick branch of a tree clapping. Nice going, you two, that was close battle. Asuma-sensei, how long have you been there? Asked Naruto.
Long enough, I've been moving from place to place as the battle went on, so that I could get a better view of your battle, and I have to say your fight could have gone either way. At this Naruto only nodded, as he knew that the battle was close, as the main reason he only won was because Shikamaru didn't know what he could do. If he had known what Naruto could do, the battle might have turned out differently, especially if he had to keep holding back like the way he was. With the battle now over, Naruto took out a small bottle full of pills, and took out a single pill, and gave it to Shikamaru and told him to take it, telling him it was antidote to the poison. When Shikamaru took the pill, Asuma decided to get rid of the remaining cloud of smoke that covered the training area, by using a wind technique to blow the smoke away. When the smoke was blown away, Shikamaru saw the rest of his team lying on the ground unconscious, but relatively unharmed. Once Shimikara had recovered from the poison, he and Naruto along with Asuma went over to Choji and Ino, where Naruto used some smelling salts to wake them up. Once Choji and Ino were awake, Asuma went on to explain what happened after Naruto knocked them out. When the two heard what happened, Choji was of course naturally impressed with what happened, and how Naruto was actually able to outwit Shikamaru and be one step ahead of him, which was something Choji had never seen or heard before. Ino of course cheered loudly at how her Naruto-kun won, despite the fact that it was her team that lost, where she then jumped forward and hugged Naruto tightly. This then caused Naruto to fall backwards onto the ground on his back with Ino on top of him, who was still hugging him tightly, saying how she knew he would win. At this, Choji and Shikamaru could only sigh at the antics of their teammate, where Shikamaru just muttered troublesome women. Asuma of course just smirked, as he found the whole situation rather funny, especially at seeing Naruto trying to get Ino off him, but failing at doing so, since Ino was latched on tightly around Naruto. He was also pleased at how his plan worked, for even though his team had lost, they had all shown good cooperation and teamwork with one another, where they saw how well they could do by working together. After eventually getting Ino off of Naruto, Asuma declared that they would call it a day, and that they would go and have barbecue to celebrate how well they all fought today, where he would treat the team. At this, Choji cheered at having barbecue. Shikamaru just sighed, as he didn't mind all that much, while Ino squealed a little. Since as far as she was concerned this was like a miniature date with her and Naruto, minus the fact that her team would be with them, where she latched onto his arm tightly as they headed for the barbecue. When Ino latched onto his arm, Naruto of course just sighed, as Ino fangirl antics were getting a bit annoying. But even still, they were at least not as bad as Sakura's was, and despite this little annoyance, he was starting to like working with Team 10 and being a part of it. Next day with Team 7. Following the events after his mock battle with the members of Team 10, Naruto joined up with Team 7 the next day, where they were doing a mission together. As expected, he did not receive too much of a warm welcome from his former team, with the exception of Kakashi, who greeted him with a wave and his tradition smile. Sasuke pretty much ignored him, as he brooded by himself. Sakura was too busy with trying to talk to Sasuke and asking him out on a date, while Sai just looked at Naruto with his friendly fake smile, which creeped Naruto out and made him all the more suspicious of Sai. After joining up with one another, the team then set out on their first joint mission together. This is Cherry Blossom, I'm in position. This is Artist, I am also in position. This is Hard Fist, no sign of the target. This is Raven, have sighted the target moving into capture. Roger, Raven, move in. Cherry Blossom, you move in from the north to support Raven. Received, copycat, and will do. Hard Fist, Artist, you'll move to the south and stay in position there, should Raven and Cherry Blossom fail and the target escape, where you can then intercept it and capture it. Will do, copycat. Confirmed, and will do. As Sasuke neared his target, he thought how worthless this mission was, where he would much prefer doing a mission of more worth, or at the very least do some serious training, than doing kiddie mission like this. After thinking this, he finally sighted his target, which was a brown cat with red ribbon on its right ear. This cat was of course no ordinary cat, as it was the pet cat of the wife of the fire daimyo Madame Shurjimi. The cat in question was named Tora, meaning tiger, which was fitting consider the cat was as wild and as dangerous a tiger was, or at least that was according to the other genin teams that were set after him before. Finally found you, you mangy furball, now maybe I can finish this dumb mission, and do something more worthwhile, thought Sasuke as he closed in on his target. Sasuke then silently sunk up on and grabbed the cat from behind, where it began to hiss widely and struggle as he tried to free himself from Sasuke's grip. Quiet down, you furball, as there's no point in struggling, spoke Sasuke. He tried to get the cat to settle, but as he did, Tora bit down hard on his right hand, with his sharp teeth. This caused Sasuke to yell out in pain and drop Tora, as he held his bleeding hand in pain. After seeing that he lost sight of his target, Sasuke quickly made contact with the others on his short band radio. I lost the target, it's heading your way, Sakura. Right. I get him, replied Sakura, where she got ready to catch the target. Sakura of course didn't have to wait long, as she soon saw her target running straight towards her. But when Sakura appeared in front of Tora ready to catch him, Tora quickly jumped up into the air and onto Sakura's face, where he proceeded to claw at Sakura's face, causing the pink-haired girl to scream in pain. After the cat scratched Sakura's face up, it then quickly jumped off Sakura's face and ran in a different direction. After getting over the pain of her face being scratched up by the ribbon-wearing cat, Sakura quickly made contact with the rest of her team. I lost the target and I have no clue as to where he's gone, spoke Sakura over the radio. Received Cherry Blossom, artist, hard fist try and locate the target and capture him, spoke Kakashi over the radio. Roger copycat, replied Naruto, where he then turned to Sai. So any ideas on how to get our target? I believe I have one, answered Sai. After separating with Sai, Naruto stayed hidden in the bushes, where he waited for Sai to lure out Tora. Fortunately Naruto didn't have to wait long, as Tora soon appeared chasing after several mice made out of ink. When Naruto saw Tora, he had to admit that the plan was pretty smart, and couldn't help but wonder why they did do this in the first place. As Tora chased after the ink mice, Naruto quickly did 3 sets of hand seals and slammed his hands into the ground, where several pieces of wood sprung up from the ground and formed around Tora and into a small wooden cage. When Tora found himself trapped inside the small wooden cage, the feline naturally tried to claw itself out, but found that the chakra enhanced wood was too strong, and its claws did little to nothing to the cage. Once Naruto saw that Tora was caught, he could not help but smile at his work, as his Mokuton skills had improved a lot thanks to his training with Yamato. Sorry Tora, but you're going back home, now, said Naruto as he walked over to the wooden cage and picked it up, with the hissing and angry cat inside it. Ah, good, so you did catch, it seems my plan worked, spoke Sai, after he jumped down from one of the trees to Naruto's right. Yeah, you plan worked like a charm, replied Naruto. Only thanks to you, Naruto-san, replied Sai with a smile, where Naruto just narrowed his eyes slightly, since he knew Sai's smile was fake. But as he narrowed his eyes, Naruto couldn't help but wonder why Sai was trying to be so nice to him. But before Naruto could think any more on Sai, Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke quickly appeared in front of them. Nice work you two, spoke Kakashi when he saw Naruto holding the cage Tora, where they then headed back to the mission office and hand in Tora. Tora-chan! Cried the fire daimyo's wife when she was handed the struggling cat, where she proceeded to squeeze the life out of the cat. When Naruto saw this, he finally understood why Tora was always running away, as given the circumstances, he would probably do the exact same thing as Tora. As Naruto watched what could be considered animal cruelty, Naruto of course could not help but feel sympathetic for the poor thing. Although not everyone was feeling sorry for Tora's plight, in fact 2 people were gaining sadistic pleasure from the cat's suffering. These 2 were none other than Sasuke and Sakura, who enjoy every minute of seeing the cat that caused them so much pain and trouble, being slowly squeezed to death by the fire daimyo's wife. Ha, serves you right, you miserable hairball, thought Sakura. Cha! That'll teach you from scratching up our face, cried inner Sakura inside Sakura's mind. Once the fire daimyo wife and paid the Hokage, who was sitting at the mission desk, handing out different mission and receiving the money for the mission's completion. Madame Shirjimi began to walk out the room with the squirming Tora held rightly against her bosom. But as she was walking by Naruto and Team 7, she noticed a silver ring with a phoenix on Naruto's right middle finger. Upon noticing the ring, she looked more careful at Naruto. Excuse me, young man, but would you happen to be Senju Naruto, son of Tsunade? Yes, I am. It's nice to meet you, Madame Shirjimi, said Naruto respectfully, since he didn't know what Madame Shirjimi was like and didn't want to get in trouble with her if he sounded disrespectful to her. But as soon as Naruto answered the Madame Shirjimi, she let out a large cry, and much to the surprise of everyone in the room, including the Sarutobi, she grabbed Naruto in a one-armed hug with her right arm, where she then proceeded to nearly squeeze the life out of Naruto, as she smothered him in her chest, all the while still holding Tora in her left arm, who was still struggled to try and get free. Oh, how wonderfully! I've been dying to meet you for years, as my granddaughter Rurakayo speaks of you all the time, and how you saved her from that horrid bear. But she never said how handsome you were. I could just eat you up, cooed the large woman, where she continued to squeeze Naruto tighter and tighter, much like she did with Tora. Eventually, after a few more minutes of this, Sarutobi finally decided to intervene on his surrogate grandson's behalf, before the women smothered poor Naruto to death, where he was able to get her to let Naruto go. Who, after being let go, fell to the ground breathing for dear life. Once Naruto regained himself, Sakura suddenly spoke up. And Naruto is what, Madame Shirjimi? Did you really save the fire daimyo's granddaughter? Yeah, it's true. A while back while I was traveling with my mom, the fire daimyo's son became ill and the fire daimyo asked for my mom's help. That's when I met Irurakayo-chan, where she was staying at the fire daimyo's estate outside the capital, said Naruto. While I was staying there, Rurakayo-chan left the estate on her own, where she was attacked by a wild bear that she accidentally ran into. Fortunately, before the bear could hurt her, I arrived, as I went looking for her, when her personal guards told me she was missing. When I found her, she was being attacked by the bear, where I knocked it out and brought her back to the estate, after which we became friends. After hearing Sakura, Saki and even Sai were surprised, as they had no idea that Naruto was on such friendly terms with the royal family of their country, and that he saved the life of the fire daimyo's granddaughter. So how is Rurakayo-chan doing, Madam Shurjimi? Oh, she is fine, and I'm sure she will be overjoyed when she hears that you are here, replied Madam Shurjimi. Also tell me, Naruto-kun, are you in a relationship with anyone? No, why? Oh good, as several good friends of mine in the royal court, who have several daughters, who would be just perfect for you. Ha! Stated the dumbstruck Naruto when he heard this, but before he could respond to this the Madam Shurjimi spoke again. Or better yet, how about you and Rurakayo, as the two of you together would make the cutest couple? Yes, that would be perfect, spoke Madam Shurjimi. For the next few minutes the fire daimyo's wife continued on with her rabblings on how Naruto and Rurakayo would be perfect for one another, since playing matchmaker was a hobby of hers. All the while ignoring the stunned look on Naruto's face, who just stood still with his mouth open, at hearing what Madam Shurjimi was suggesting. Naruto was the only one that was surprised at Madam Shurjimi's suggestion, as when Sakura heard this, her jaw dropped, as she couldn't believe that the fire daimyo's wife was actually trying to arrange a marriage between her granddaughter and Naruto right in front of them. Sasuke, Kakashi and even Sai were also surprised Madam Shurjimi's idea, although they were able to mask their surprise much better than Sakura, where the only sign of their surprise was that the three of them had raised eyebrows. So tell me, Naruto-kun, what do you think of my idea about you and my granddaughter Rurakayo? Well that is, I think that, stuttered a tongue-tied Naruto, as he didn't know what to say to Madam Shurjimi's idea. Deciding to intervene again on the youth's behalf, and save Naruto from the awkward situation that the daimyo's wife had put Naruto in, the Sandaime coughed loudly, gaining everyone's attention. Ahem, pardon me Madam Shurjimi, but if I may interject, I'm afraid I have important briefing that I need to discuss with young Naruto now. Oh, but of course I understand, spoke Madam Shurjimi, where she then turned back to Naruto. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you, Naruto-kun, and I hope we met again soon. It was nice talking to you too, Madam Shurjimi, replied Naruto respectfully, where he then gave his surrogate grandfather an grateful glance for getting him out that situation with Madam Shurjimi. At this the daimyo's wife smiled kindly to the young blonde and proceeded to walk out of the room, although before she fully left she quickly stopped and turned around slight. Also, Naruto-kun, please consider my suggestion on you and my granddaughter, as I certain that they two would match up handsomely with one another. I will, Madam Shurjimi, replied an uncomfortable Naruto, where Madam Shurjimi just nodded and then left the room. Upon which Naruto let loose a large sigh of exhaustion, as he hoped his mother never hears about this, as he knew she have a major fit over it. Sarutobi on the other hand smiled in amusement and some pity of Naruto's previous situation. Thanks Gigi, I owe you one. Anytime, Naruto-kun, replied the Sandaime with a smile. Are you sure you wouldn't want to take up Madam Shurjimi up on her offer, Naruto? As being the grandson-in-law to the fire daimyo would have its advantages, plus I hear that Rurakayo is quite the looker, spoke Kakashi with a slight chuckle as he saw the annoyed Naruto glare at him. Once the excitement from the conversation with the fire daimyo's wife died down, the Hokage dismissed Team 7, stating that they were done for the day. But instead of leaving the mission office with the others, Naruto remained in the room with the Sandaime, stating he wanted to talk to the old Hokage about something. Seeing the serious look on Naruto's face, the Hokage dismissed the other shinobis that were working in the mission's office with him, leaving Naruto and the Sandaime alone together. So Naruto, what is it that you wish to speak to me about? What can you tell about Sai? The one who replaced me on Team 7 when I left it? Asked Naruto. Upon hearing this, a slight frown appeared on the Sandaime face. Why do you ask this, Naruto? There's just something off about that guy that puts me at odds with him, plus he seems too skilled to be just another ordinary genin, not to mention I can tell there's more to him than he's letting on, as if he's working for someone. Upon hearing this, the Sandaime frowned further before he let a tired sigh. Sigh, very well then, tell me, Naruto, has either your mother or Jiraiya told you anything about an organization called the Foundation, otherwise known as Root? Asked Sarutobi. No, I never even heard of it. Very few people have, as it was a branch of ANBU that use work outside normal operations, and was led by a man named Shimura Danzo, who is one of the 3 shinobi elders of the council, and one of my leading advisors. Danzo? Said Naruto in surprise. You've heard of him? Yeah, Kaa-chan told me he is a very dangerous guy, and that I was to keep as far away from him as possible. And she is correct, as Danzo isn't someone you can take lightly. So how does Sai fit in with Danzo and his Root organization? Sai is one of the last members to be trained in Root, before I had the organization disbanded due to their training methods, and how it would recruit orphans for the organization and conducted several illegal operations. What kind of training methods did they use that would cause you to have the group disbanded? Asked Naruto. Naruto, has your mother ever told you about the history of Kirigakure, Hidden Mist, or to be more precise, why it was once called the Bloody Mist? Shizune-chan told me about it during a history lesson of the different shinobi villages. She told me that Kiri used to have a special graduation exam, where they would have the class members fight each other to the death, so too. Said Naruto until he suddenly realized what the Sandaime was telling him. Wait. Are you telling me that this Danzo character used the same kind of graduation test as Kiri used to do? Asked an appalled Naruto. As he found the very idea of forcing classmates and friends to fight or kill each other, just to try and have a better quality of shinobis, ludicrous. Correct, that was one of the main reasons why I had the group disband, as well as because it seemed that Danzo was brainwashing the young operans along with the other members into becoming his loyal followers, replied Sarutobi. As Naruto heard this, as he starting to like Danzo less and less, and was beginning to see why his mother detested him so much. But why is Sai in Team 7, if he was trained to be an elite shinobi under Danzo command? I believe that Sai was placed on Team 7, so that he would have the chance to observe you, Naruto. Me? But why exactly? It's not like I ever met Danzo before or done anything to him. You forget, Naruto, that you've a great deal of influence in Konoha, whether want to admit it or not, as you are the sole heir to the Senju clan, the main founders of this village. You're also your mother's son, and as well the descendant of the Shodai and Nidaime Hokage, which can hold a great deal of sway over many people in Konoha. Not to mention you possess the Mokotan bloodline of the Shodai, where you could possibly pass it on to any children you may have in the future, and at the same time restore the Senju clan in Konoha. Those reasons by themselves are enough for Danzo to want to keep an eye on you, and one day find a way to gain control of you. So to use you to either help him take my place as Hokage, or at the very least, influence you to turn Konoha into the type of place he wants it to be, by having you becoming Hokage, where I'm sure you can guess what it would be like. At hearing this, Naruto just nodded, but then spoke again. But if you know that Sai is working for Danzo, why did you allow him on Team 7? I'm afraid I had little choice, since Sai was originally supposed to be on Team 7 along with Sasuke and Sakura, but I had him removed when you arrived, although that changed back when I had you moved to be trained with Yamato and Kushina. As Danzo was able to arrange for Sai to take his place back on Team 7, answered the Sandaime. But I thought he only wanted Sai to be on Team 7 because he wanted to observe me, so why did he arrange to have Sai place on Team 7 before people knew I even existed? Asked Naruto, as that part didn't make sense to him. It's because, originally you weren't the target, Sasuke was. Sasuke, was it because of the same reasons he wants me? Asked Naruto, for although he didn't like to admit it, Sasuke and him were a lot alike in many ways. Both were the last heirs of their individual clans, both called prodigies by people, due to their great skills. Both were from the two clans that lead to Konoha being formed and both possessed powerful bloodlines. Along with that, they also had several other things in common. I'm not exactly sure, but it is possible, although I'm willing to bet that Sai's orders are to monitor both you and Sasuke now, answered Sarutobi. Although what he wasn't telling Naruto was that he believed the main reason that Sai was ordered to monitor Sasuke was in case he tried to leave or betray the village, in the hopes of gaining a chance to kill his brother Itachi, as Danzo had brought it to the Sandame's attention on more than one occasion, that Sasuke could one day become a threat to Konoha. But still, why didn't you deny him to be part of the team to begin with? Asked Naruto. Sadly, Naruto, things aren't that easy, as Danzo is quite powerful, and has a great deal of influence in Konoha. Not to mention, even if I did deny Sai to be a member of Team 7, Danzo will just find another way to monitor you both. This way allows me to monitor Sai and his actions, while he monitors you and Sasuke, replied Sarutobi. Meaning you're having Kakashi-sensei watch Sai, when he's training or doing missions with Sasuke and Sakura, as well as have Kakashi-sensei along with Kushina-sensei and Yamato-sensei do the same whenever I'm training with Team 7. Thereby letting you limit or control what Danzo may learn from Sai, as he monitors me and Sasuke, as well as give you a chance to try and find out what Danzo is doing, since he's obviously up to something, said Naruto. Sarutobi of course could not help but smirk when Naruto figured out what his plan was so quickly, as it showed that Naruto was quite astute for his age. Very good, Naruto, I'm very impressed, spoke Sarutobi, before he became serious, but still I want you to be careful around Sai and not let on that you're onto him. Let him monitor you without revealing anything important about yourself, as Danzo is a dangerous man and I've reason to believe that Root is not truly disbanded, as Danzo may let on. Naruto of course just nodded, understanding, after which he then left the room and headed home, but as he did, he planned that he would also keep a close eye on Sai, as you can never have too many eyes on a person. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.